OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
All right, very welcome along. Tuesday morning, we've got a very busy show for you. We've also got the opportunity for potentially somebody listening this morning to head off to France this weekend to watch Ireland in Paris. What's going to happen? What's realistically going to happen? Tell us on our YouTube channel. Tell us at Off the Ball AM on Twitter what you think is realistically going to happen. Now that the dust has settled from the weekend and the false bravado and the fear, it was that kind of curious mix of like, well, actually most players are fit. The players who are injured are bench players, and we seem to be doing okay at the moment. So what level of confidence do you have out there? What level of confidence do you have?
Well, I check the calendar and it gives me great confidence. 2022.
Oh, it's our winning year.
Yeah, it's a winning year.
Sorry, I forgot.
It's 2018 all over again.
Well, we won't crush. It'll be a last minute spinning.
That was the thing about it, that 2009 was kind of like a perfect condition for Ireland to win the Grand Slam, because it was the two tough games at home and the third toughest game obviously on the road, famously at the end. There was never a chance that Ireland were going to win a Grand Slam on the road in an even number year, and that's exactly what happened in 2018. Obviously France were just at the bottom of their curve, about to come on the way back up. Maybe they just started to climb at that point, and England obviously weren't great. So can we hope for the same thing this year? But I think England have shown kind of a certain sense of shakiness at the weekend. There's certainly enough noise around them, which probably is convenient, to be honest. And then, there is the old cliche about France, which people don't need to hear this morning, but it does exist for a reason, and it's been 11, possibly 12 long years for them without that championship, which is a stupidly long time for a country of their size.
The fact that this is the second game, if this was like the fourth or fifth game, they would you might be able to believe that you could get in their heads and there might be a bit of choking possible, but it feels like it's too far away for them to be even thinking about the tournament.
Yeah, fair. But I guess then if you look at it the other way, if you think that they are going to choke at some point in this year's championship, do you think that Ireland will win the rest of their games outside of France? I think there's
a good chance we win the championship, yeah.
Because it's France-England on the last day, isn't it?
The Grand Slam is what we want. Maybe we don't want a Grand Slam. Maybe that would just...
Well, of course you want a Grand Slam. You want to win every game.
I don't know. Maybe, oh, geez, we scored too early.
We
hit it almost too well.
By beating Wales, we've scored too early.
Well, it'll be a Grand Slam disaster.
By beating the All Blacks, we scored too early.
Yeah, we have, definitely.
By Mac Hansen getting signed for Connacht,
by 2 years too early.
2 years too early.
Can we swap all those three wins in 5 matches for one win in one match at the World Cup? Can we do that?
Yeah,
is that possible?
That's the deal you make.
A barter system that you can do.
That's what happens in rugby. It's exactly what happens. I think that this French team are obviously gifted beyond belief, but give me your proof of what they've won so far, and let's chat then. Of course, this is more than likely going to be the year where they do start to win, but I think there's enough there to give us hope that this will be a very, very interesting championship for a few more weeks yet. I think if France win this weekend, though, it's like, okay, that's their championship, right? And it's like, will they do the Grand Slam or not? And that's the only question that remains to be answered.
Oh yeah, totally. At that stage, very difficult to see us coming back. This is one of those games that you think will be in the melting pot right till the end. And would you be terribly surprised if it actually ended up a draw? I wouldn't.
No, and I think even the fact that we're talking about that shows that Ireland have made a lot of positive progress over the last 18 months, because it did feel that the delayed Six Nations game in 2020, there was a gulf between the sides. Last year, maybe even it felt that there was a bit of a gap between the two teams as well. And you look at the age profile of that France team and you think to yourself, well, that gap's only going to get bigger. And it hasn't. It's closed over the last little while. Obviously, they matched one another's results in the autumn. And France were, you could say, on the scoreboard. It was arguably a less impressive win for them over Italy than Ireland's was over Wales. I know Wales aren't in great shape at the moment, but France didn't exactly blow Italy away.
But France hate playing Italy. They're bored of it. It's too easy for them.
They've won the Garibaldi trophy too many times or whatever.
And so frequently you'll see them like 2 or 3 tries down the match. Not 3, but like sometimes they're like...
Does that not speak to a reason why we can look at this Irish team with a degree of hope this weekend?
No, I don't think... I think that you've got to take each game on its merits there, Owen.
Yeah. Yeah, but does that not speak to a sort of
this game on its merits is like a good team versus a potentially great team, or 2 great teams against each other. And look,
you're playing Italy first day in a championship that you know is going to be competitive this year. You got to rack up the score. No,
you're just getting fit because you know you're going to win every game.
You're going to do the slams. It's not going to matter.
But
that's it exactly. as you're smoking there, looking at the little Irishmen coming over to your big city.
Not so little, not such.
But they're
not
little
such pygmies anymore.
They're little to them.
The flabbiness around the Oxters has disappeared.
What do you think the Irish view is in France? What do you think they think of us?
The French farmers who like rugby.
The French farmers think of the Irish farmers.
Oh, I think they like the fact that we can match them brown liquor for brown liquor.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think that they just would turn.
Do the rich French people like the rich Irish people? I'd say they probably do.
I would say there's a degree of looking down the nose from France's perspective, but at everybody else in the Six Nations. To be fair, I mean they are more handsome than us. They have possibly a nicer cuisine than us. They have
I think French cuisine is massively overrated.
You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Get ready, Midi Olympique. Start transcribing now. Shock Jock Jared Gilroy has a go at French cuisine. Come on, give it to us this morning.
I just think it's massively overrated.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, by the way. I'm intrigued in this.
If you were to rank cuisines in Europe, it would go Italian, Spanish. It would go Italian, Basque, Spanish, and I mean French. I don't even know if I'd say French is actually closer to German cuisine. That's where it is.
Which is bad.
German cuisine is surprisingly good, actually.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's better than you might think.
So what would be the dish that gave you the most contempt for French cuisine?
Well, I mean, I like their cassoulet in winter, but are you really telling me this plate of gruel is the best you've got? Okay, fair enough, it's good. I mean, okay, fine, it's good. But it's not and the gourmand stuff that they make is kind of it must have been impressive in the 60s, I'm sure. But it sure as shit has not evolved. Anyway, I mean, you're making me sound like a complete wanker.
Yes, it is my fault that you sound like a complete wanker.
It is your fault.
Midi Olympique, I hope you're listening. That was I mean, the thing is, you couldn't call Wales every name under the sun. You can call them terrible, terrible things. The equatable thing to do with France is to slag off their food, and you've just done that. And all the little restaurants around Lyon are shaking their head at you right now, and they're preparing to come at you with their pitchforks this weekend.
I mean, sorry, Lyonnais potatoes, very nice.
Okay, he's on the way back here. He's on the way back. Go on, the compliment croissants there. Overrated.
Well, very buttery, not great for the arteries.
It's true.
It's 7:38 this morning. If you want to get in touch, you can leave a comment on the YouTube stream, or you can abuse us wholeheartedly at our own Twitter accounts or at Off The Ball AM. OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Ireland involved in hosting the Euros. This is a little less ambitious than the ridiculousness around the World Cup, where I can't even remember who it was telling us we needed a new stadium. It's at least with this, we're not getting any new stadiums. We're using the existing stadiums, and perhaps even the 6 counties will have government investment in Casement Park, because Northern Ireland are part of the bid, right? The Northern Ireland FA, but they don't have a ground that's going to work, because Windsor Park is too small, which means the only 30,000 plus seater stadium available to them would be Casement, which obviously isn't built, right? There's a judicial review that's going to happen in March, and the Northern Ireland FA have said that they are interested in hosting games. They want to be a full part of this, and that they know they have to work with partners, primarily government partners, to make sure they have a stadium that's capable of doing that. So ultimately, this will be good news if that stadium, which really should have been fixed ages ago, finally gets over the line. Other than that, we had Neil O'Riordan on making a very potent case that it's very easy for a small organisation like the FAI to get distracted by what goes into a bid. At least with this, there are 5 other parts to it. I mean, reading the English papers this morning, Henry Winter, very interesting, is everybody hates us, so we really need the human shield of the Scots, the Irish, the Welsh, to help us win some favour from UEFA and the rest of Europe, what with us deciding to pull out of Europe, and now, oh no, we really want to get back in. So
the Telegraph are angling it by posing this as a fight between UK and Ireland and Russia. So will we see the Cork fishermen out front and centre as Ireland bid to take down Russia?
We should get them to give us some advice.
100%.
What should we do here, lads?
We've literally defeated them in our own version of the Cold War. So can we beat them in a war for this? I suspect we can. Like it's. I mean, you say that there is no chance for this to get ridiculous in the way that, say, the stadium plan for 2030 would have been ridiculous. But I think you probably underestimate the power of the politician's mind.
You're right.
And what sort of ideas may actually come into the pipeline between now and the year 2028.
They're lying in a fevered room at the moment. Like, the fever has yet to break, but when it does, they will pour forth on such an ecstasy of ideas about how they can make out like bandits for this, claim credit for it, make sure they're at the official ceremonial giant scissors of whatever it is that's getting cut. Yeah. That's Euros related.
You better believe that there is
free footballs for everybody. A free football, 5 million free footballs for every man, woman and monkey in Ireland.
You better believe that there is a TD representing Roscommon South Leitrim thinking about how do I get an 80,000 seater stadium into my constituency as a result of this bid right now. Who can blame them? I mean, you got to hop on this bandwagon while you can. This is a good news story.
They could turn the corporate boxes into social housing afterwards.
Absolutely,
it's a win-win-win-win.
That's the legacy of it all. But remind me of the Casement situation. It's a massive job, right? That, like, even to get this over the line in time.
I think it'd be easy. Well, like where there's a will, there's a way. There's been no will it's been locked in. It has been unfortunately paralleled by the complete dysfunctionality of the failed state that is Northern Ireland and the political system that has been falling apart. Like it's kind of the physical manifestation of politics in Northern Ireland. The pitch completely overgrown. Weeds locked in all sorts of lack of funding. The funding was agreed, but because that Declan Bogue did a great piece with us ages and ages ago. It's like a couple of years back, pre-pandemic, before, and then Brian McAvoy, a friend of the show, is on today saying that there's a judicial review in March and nothing will be. They can't say yes, we would definitely be part of this, but they have a friendly relationship with the Irish Football Association, and I'm sure a deal could be done. So this is their opportunity to, make sure that funding is forthcoming from the relevant government department to get it done and get it done fast and get it done properly.
And I mean, you're not going to paint it as a bad news story, but still a penny for the thoughts of anybody who's been involved with Antrim GEA over the last 5 or 6 years, and the frustration of staring at those weeds growing on the park, kind of feeling a little bit helpless about what was going on, and all of a sudden there's a shiny new tournament in town, and all of a sudden things move a little bit quicker through the courts. Yeah,
do you get pissed off about that, or are you delighted about the fact that you can actually limp it onto this and use this now as a way to get over? So
as I say, you can't really paint it as a bad news story if it's going to get done, and that's the reality of the situation in the north, unfortunately. But still, it shouldn't be that way. This shouldn't be a story that we're still talking about.
It seemed to be a project that was that had its merits, and that as a result should have had the support, but it didn't have the support. As I said, Northern Ireland a failed state. So OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Dara says, "Sweet Jesus, what are you doing, Ger? Stop. Oh, great. Insulting French cuisine. That'll go down well." I mean, look, they're self-confident enough to know that they had their day. They had good food for a while. The rest of the world copied it, improved on it. And it's not that good anymore.
15 French meals you have to try. I'm not sure how many of these you've actually tried. Have you had steak frite?
I mean, steak and chips, yes.
Yeah. Give me a rating out of that. Give me a rating out of 10 for that.
I don't even. Do they do, is their steak? Our steak's better.
There you go. So give us a rating.
6.
Chicken confit?
That's just chicken on the bone, right?
Yeah. I think so.
Again, grand.
French onion soup?
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. French onion soup is excellent.
That's your art. Give that a 10 out of 10 there.
And give that an 8.
Give that an 8. Okay, we're back. We're back on side. Quiche Lorraine?
I mean,
quiches are great. I mean,
but that's a plain, boring quiche.
Yeah.
I'm giving that real men don't eat quiche was the phrase du jour in the 80s. I'll give that a 6.5.
And actually, here's an interesting one, a fifth and final one, croque monsieur. What are you giving that out of 10?
I see a good croque monsieur now. But I mean, it's just a toasty.
It's just toasty. Yeah. Go to Grilla or one of those trucks around Dublin.
There are other toasties out there, but if Grilla want to send us in some breakfast ones, we'd be happy.
We'd be delighted. You would get a better croque monsieur in a place like that in Dublin.
So what are you giving them?
I'm This is your baby here. I'm not a foodie by any stretch of the imagination, but
Crock for sure, a good toasty. You can't
go wrong with it. But it's a I know.
Okay, 7.
I was going to say it's a fancy name for toasty, but it is literally their language, so it's not fancy at all. But,
well, it is fancy.
Yeah, I guess it is. It doesn't.
I mean, a croque madame with the egg. Yes, please.
Yeah, I haven't had one of those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is good. Don't get me wrong, but like I mean, it's nothing imaginative.
No, it isn't. It's just a toasty. In fairness, they made toasties better than everybody else a long time. This is my point. They rested on their laurels. They create great toasties. Have they innovated? No, they haven't. Mm-hmm. Our toasties are probably now better.
Yeah, exactly. We've moved on.
We have.
I mean, that was the Antoine Dupont of the food world, and it just hasn't developed into the all-time great scrum half that we expected it to be.
Exactly. They've stalled. Ireland can be optimistic because France had an easy game at the weekend, says James. If we take a decent lead, the French may wilt. And Jack says, historically, Italy always get progressively worse as the tournament gets on, so I wouldn't read too much into France's performance last Sunday. Will Ulster GA officials agree to allowing Casement to be used for the Euros, says Mark. Yes, they will. I think that's fairly obvious at this point that is going to happen. So, look, we'll keep a very close eye on this. We haven't even talked about the FAI strategy. It's mad that the FAI announced a huge new strategic direction on the same day that the news comes out about the joint Euros bid. Why would you do that? Why would you have these two things on the same day when one is supposed to be a triumph, a tone setter? This is us. We've wrestled control of the organisation back from the past that we had. Oh, look, we also had this other thing going on today too, which is absolutely massive, which we're a junior partner in. These two things are happening. Why would you do those on the same day? Is it because you're not fully confident in the promises you're making and the strategy that you have? Is it that it's not finished? Or is it totally finished and you're really proud of it and you're there banging the table for it and you're saying, this organisation is an organisation you can back as a fan, as a football lover, as a parent, as a participant, as a sponsor, you can back this organisation. We're proud of this. Or is it a little like, why don't we do it on the same day? It's the best day ever for us. And then nobody will actually pay too much attention to what's in the document because actually everybody's thinking about the Euros. What's going on? How does that make sense? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's the greatest day that the FAI have had in a long time and everybody's talking about this as opposed to parsing through the details of the strategy.
If the FAI don't realise that a bid for a major tournament isn't going to capture all the headlines in the sports pages and in the news pages, then they really don't understand how football works. So I think that they've got a very good understanding of what would be front and centre today when it comes to those back pages. All right.
It's a very special competition for you today. Aer Lingus is the official airline of the Irish rugby team, bringing home advantage to wherever the team plays. And to celebrate, we have an amazing prize of a pair of match tickets, flights and 2 nights accommodation to be won for this weekend's Six Nations clash between France and Ireland, as well as a signed jersey. Daily winners will get an Irish jersey and be with the chance to win that amazing overall prize. Just tell us who our mystery voice is.
Props are a different animal. They're like wrestlers or boxers. They have a fighting weight.
That's a fair point.
Props are a different animal. They're like wrestlers or boxers. They have a fighting weight.
To enter, you can WhatsApp the answer to 0879 180 180. You can tweet us at Off The Ball, or you can comment on the YouTube channel. Each daily winner will also win an Ireland jersey and go into the draw on Thursday for the grand prize as well. Now, it is 7:48. It is time for, I wouldn't say they're a crisis, but they're an emergency update. Power rankings.
Some of these critics, these pundits,
I absolutely adore them lads. I have unbelievable time for them, but they're a great bunch, but it's not acceptable.
that like to play the hard man when they're on it. It's not very pleasant when you're trying to manage a team. All you're looking for is a bit of civility and a bit of decency, but they just dismiss you like you have nothing to do with the bloody occasion.
Very interesting weekend last weekend.
It was. The inspirational, the all-time correct power rankings are back for week 2 as we bring you from county number 32 to county number 1 in inter-county Gaelic football.
Before we get into this, did you have a good Saturday night? What afterwards, there was like you were saying, you were mildly complaining about the fact that the Dubs had either not gone to the game or had left the game at half-time and had commandeered all the good seats in the pub. But then you were like, they serenaded you with the sing-song. You didn't say whether or not you liked, you were accepted, you were like nose up to the... Oh, look at this smells like Jackie nonsense. What was your take on the sing-song and the rest of the events?
Yeah, it was, absolute nonsense is right. I wanted just a cold, calculated post-match analysis sort of scenario, not a post-match sing-song. Who wants that? Who wants to be happy? It's all about being bogged down in the detail and just getting disgustingly at one with the statistics and the performance of both teams and show. That's all you want after a game.
Well, I mean, you can do that the morning after when you rewatch the game, which you said you did rewatch the game. And I don't know if you rewatched too many of the defeats that Kerry have, but certainly you were like, when I rewatched that game again, I got to see all the things that I was like,
This is no word of like. I only actually rewatched the second half of the game, the second day.
Okay, wow.
Only getting
what a
bogged down
masochist.
only getting bogged down in the grim details, as I say, of it. That's what the league is all about.
Okay.
Fair, I just woke up a little bit late. My dad had already watched the first half, so by the time I got there, it's just second half. So, but that's all I needed to see.
The night was so good, I was laid up on Sunday.
All I needed to see was the second half of that game, because that's the only half that mattered. Number 32.
Yeah.
We do the countdown. Number 32 is Carlow, staying put where they are. Under-strength team at the weekend, got hammered by Sligo by 23 points.
That's mad.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're missing 8 starters. I think they feel quite screwed over about what happened the previous week, the 1 point defeat to London. Not happy with the referee there at all, but still losing to
They
London.
were 10 points up to London, though.
Yeah.
Do you know, if you lose a game and you're 10 points up and you blame the referee, there's something wrong with the culture.
Yeah, so they're not going well, I think it's fair to say. Wexford are in at number 31. They lost to Cavan at the weekend. Waterford, they drew a tip on week 1, lost to London by a point at the weekend, so they're in at 30. London then go up because they've won back-to-back weeks, back-to-back 1 point wins.
Amazing.
For London, and the good times are coming. I'm be loath to say that they're a promotion candidate just yet. I think that'd be a bit of a stretch given some of the other counties in that Division 4, but still, what a start it's been for London, and they're back with a bang after being out in the wilderness for a couple of years. Tipperary are one of the big fallers, the biggest faller this week. They drew at Waterford in week 1, which was a bad result, and then they lost by 8 points to Leitrim at the weekend. Tipper in a bad place. They're a one-man team at the moment. Conor Sweeney scored 2-6 for them against Leitrim at the weekend. If you took him out of the team, they would almost get relegated from Division 4. That's how bad they are at the moment. It's just not looking good, and I think the case now is that is it themselves or Waterford who are the worst team in Munster. They will hopefully come back over the course of the next few weeks and months and maybe a stronger championship from them, but right now it's not looking good. Leitrim are above them now at 27. Weren't overly flattered by the scoreline, I think it's fair to say. I mean, the 8-point win against Tipperary, like, if that had been a result that you would have been offered before the championship, they would have bitten your hand off for it because of the fact that they had Cavan first week up, so on paper they were due to be their two toughest fixtures, and they've come away from the first 2 games with 2 points on the board, so a great start in Division 4 for Andy Moran. Wicklow are up 1-26. Oisin McGrainer was one of the players who came off the bench to play really, really well. He kicked a leveller. He's been at an AFL combine in the not too distant past, so they drew at Wicklow, or they drew at Fermanagh, I should say, who were just above them at 25, and the story there was really kind of a tale of two halves with a wind going in one direction. Fermanagh were 2-4 to 2 points up at half time in that game, and then obviously, as I say, Wicklow came back in the second half. In at 24 then, Sligo, they grinded it out in week 1, not so much in week 2. They killed them. The McEntee master plan is potentially coming together. They beat Carlow by 23 points. You've someone like Niall Murphy kicking big tallies for them at the moment. Then you've also got Pat Spillane Jr. Coming off the bench to kick a point for Sligo in that game. Louth at number 23. So what we have here was team number 25 playing team number 26 in the power rankings, Louth against Longford. What happens? Well, of course they draw, because these are the most correct, most accurate power rankings of all time. They're now up to 23 and 22 right now, Louth and Longford respectively. Sam Mulroy with a big equaliser in the 8th minute of injury time, but there had only been 5 minutes of injury time initially announced for that, so a little bit of controversy. Like Mulroy and Kieran Byrne, they're 2 half forwards. They're running the show for Louth at the moment, and that draw against Longford, a decent result, and that is where Longford are as well, just in front of them. In at number 22, Laois are in at number 21, a non-mover after going down to Westmeath by 6 points. Antrim, disappointing result after a great start to the league for them. They lost to Limerick, so Antrim are at 20.
At home as well.
At home. Limerick are in at 19, and Limerick have made a habit so far of starting games really fast. They were 2-1 to no score up after 10 minutes at the weekend, so they just managed to hold off a bit of a second half drive from Antrim, so a 4-point win for them after beating Longford in the opening week. Limerick, one of the stories of the league so far. Down are a non-mover at number 18. They still have more Kilcoo players coming back. 6-point defeat to Galway at the weekend.
That must have been, you must have been like, well, I suppose they can't really fall any further, can they?
No, like I mean, if they got absolutely hockeyed by Galway, it could have been a bit of a different scenario.
Are they the worst Division 2 team in your rankings?
I'm trying to think. I think they might be, yeah.
Okay, well, that's fair enough.
So
you make them relegation favourites at the moment?
Yes, just behind Offaly.
Yeah, and I suppose the fact that they do have players to come back is different.
No, I would actually. Do you know what? I would actually make Offaly just edging it on being favourites to go down, but I have them ahead of them in the rankings because of what we've seen so far, and them shipping a 12-point defeat within their own division.
So this could change.
Well,
this could change.
Yeah.
Look, I think Derry are all Ireland contenders, I have to say. I think that there's a good chance that Derry make a semi-final this year. If the draw goes their way in the qualifiers, I think there's a reasonable chance. I think Derry are where Armagh were last year, except with a better defensive structure than Armagh had last season.
Yeah.
And they'll have the back door.
They'll have the back door. We'll get to them in just a moment, but Offaly did lose to them by 12 points this weekend. They're in at number 17. Cavan are up to 16 at this point. They were 9 points up against Wexford at half time at the weekend, and to be honest, they should have won by more. So they're winning, pulling up at the moment. Cavan, they're going to get promoted and they're going to win Division 4. Cork are in at 15, holding their place just about at the moment, but I think getting a draw against Clare was actually a very good result for them at the weekend. They did score an absolute freak of a goal. Brian Hurley had a free, maybe about 30 metres out, possibly into the wind, to level it up late on, and the ball dropped short, but the Clare player made a shambles of it, or the wind just caught it or something, and it went into the back of the net. But Clare managed to come back and get 2 late scores to level the game. So they were level on 7 occasions. I think they're fairly close together at the moment, Cork and Clare, even though I'd have Clare ahead of them in the rankings there, as you can see. Meath are falling slightly down to 14. They played Down next. That is an absolutely huge game for Meath. Andy McEntee himself was sent off at the weekend for Meath, and their scoring is a massive issue at the moment. They went 47 minutes without a score from play at the weekend. It was 45 minutes without a score from play in Salt Hill, so arguably even worse. But there are a number of mitigating factors. They are missing players. They had a few late COVID issues at the weekend as well. As I say, if it's defeated Down, then it's crisis time. So I'm not pushing the crisis button on Meath just yet until they lose it Down.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Westmeath up 1 to at number 13, as you can see there. Good win for them against Laois at the weekend, who they've really got a habit of beating at the moment. They hammered them in the championship last year. Their full forward line is what's doing the damage for Westmeath at the moment. You've Luke Loughlin, who scored 1-1, John Heslin, who scored 3 points, and Alex Gardner, who scored 3 points. So they scored 2-11 of their total at the weekend. Clare non-mover at 12 after drawing with Cork. The Rossies there at number 11. Big win for them at the weekend, especially with a lot of their club players still unavailable to come into that Roscommon side, so they'll absolutely be promotion contenders. And then we get to a little bit of a flip here between number 10 and number 9. You've called Derry All-Ireland contenders, and I'm not entirely disagreeing with that. This is not so much a reflection on Kildare, this is more a reflection of Derry and how well they've been going, pushing them up to 9th place and dropping Kildare down to 10. Kildare lost by 5 points to Donegal at the weekend. I mean, you've got Jimmy influencing matches for Kildare big time at the moment. 1-4 for him at the weekend. Paddy Woodgate has been a good addition. Derek Kerwin, hopefully he'll be back from injury at some point this season, and that's a pretty potent inside line for them. But Derry, as you say, the talent that they have, the likes of Shane McGuigan and Conor Glass, obviously top quality, but you look at someone like Brendan Rodgers, and he is potentially, and hopefully we'll see more of him over the course of this year, as in hopefully Derry will be on television a lot more. And like, is this guy potentially one of the best full-backs in the country right now? He certainly has the capability of popping up with a score from full-back, and when you've got these massive gusts of wind, those long rangers can be a real asset to a team. They beat Offaly by 12 points at the weekend, and Derry are into the top 10.
Yeah, I think it's routine for Derry now to do that stuff. The doubts that teams have had, or people have had about Derry, the conditioning, and I don't mean just the S&C work, but the conditioning of the style of play has bedded in over a long enough period of time now. The management is aligned, it seems, with their most important players. Like, you would be pretty confident about what's coming down the tracks for Derry.
Yeah, 100%. And it's going to be a fascinating Ulster Championship. They're going to be right in the mix for promotion. You can only say they were going to be in the mix, though, because Division 2 is so competitive that there is still a way in which they have a good league campaign and they finish third, for example. So it's going to be quite a battle.
Who ahead?
Well, Galway are
Galway and Roscommon.
Galway and Roscommon, I would say. And if Clare got the job done against Cork the weekend, again, that free goal, if that doesn't happen, Clare possibly win that game, you would have had them in that mix as well. They've constantly been nipping at the heels of the top 2 or 3, finishing 3rd and 4th in that division. So you've got to keep them in the mix there as well. But I would say it's going to be a 3-horse race between Roscommon, Derry and Galway to get promotion back to Division 1.
And going down is Down
and Offaly.
Okay.
Potentially Meath. We'll see. Ask me again after Down. If Down beat Meath are in proper bother at that point. Like that's, I know that's like you look at the couple of games that Meath have played so far. Galway, Roscommon, 2 of the toughest games to start, but they still have Derry yet to play. So if they lose it Down, that could possibly be four defeats on the board. So it is worrying times, but I wouldn't be writing them off just yet. So yeah, Down and Offaly.
If only there were 3 points for a win, this would definitely be a relegation 6-pointer.
Well, there you go. There could be a case for that.
Why don't we do the 3 points?
Especially this time of year when there is
2 draws, you're unbeaten.
Yeah.
2 points. It's as good as a win and a loss.
It's true.
It's not. We're trying to get teams to win. Why is the game so defensive? Well, because we incentivise drawing as much as we do.
Like especially this time of year when it could be like 9 points apiece, there is a real sense of playing for a draw at times.
Let's not go for it, whatever we do, because we get a full point. We get half as much we get for winning.
Yeah.
Why would we risk that?
Yeah. We move into the top 8, the first page of our power rankings. Galway staying put at number 8. As I say, I think they're definitely going to get promoted again. They beat Down by 6 points at the weekend. Paul Conroy was brilliant in the first 15 minutes of this game. Brilliant throughout. Like, he kicked 1-2 from midfield in the first couple of minutes. Damien Comer back. He came off the bench. So Galway at number 8. Monaghan, number 7, staying put there as well. They'll probably regret a little bit about this performance against Mayo at the weekend. They lost by 2 points, but they were very wasteful in the second half. McManus wasn't starting, comes on. So Monaghan, they're one of those teams who are going to possibly get up to 5 or 4 at some point this season. Can they break into the top 3 and do something special? I think recent form has shown that has been their ceiling. So that's where they're at the moment. Dublin then down to number 6 for the moment. If I had to predict it though, this will be the lowest that the Dubs go this year. If I'm buying stock in the Dubs, I think I'm buying it now. I'm buying it at its lowest price. They might get down to 7.
Okay, they were missing John Fogarty's piece today. He says he's not writing their epitaph just yet. They were missing 7 of the starters from the All-Ireland semi-final. And it's not the players who are retired or anything. I need to find the exact one there. He's making the point that they were missing... Okay, almost half of the team that started last year's All-Ireland semi-final were missing. None of those 7 came off the bench or retired. I don't know.
So they're like properly unavailable at the moment and haven't played any football.
But okay, and do they automatically all come back straight away at the level that they were excellent and as a result able to influence games, or are some of them? Is it a mix where some of them are just being eased back in? Some of them are genuinely injured. And
also the age profile of a lot of them isn't amazing.
So you don't automatically bounce back the way you did in your early 20s.
I think so, but at the same time, if you're asking whether or not they automatically come back into the starting team, they do. That's the situation that Dublin are in, that they will be starters.
Yeah, okay, but that doesn't automatically mean that they're going to be way better than they are right now. I think there's a good chance they finish the season in the. Well, here's the thing: if they win Leinster, do they automatically get into your top 4 or?
Not necessarily, no, because it's not going to. There will be a back door, but I would predict that they will get into an All-Ireland semi-final because chances are they will play a weaker team in an All-Ireland quarter-final.
Well,
so I think
you would hope that the draw isn't. There's a chance they play a weaker team, but there's also a chance that they play Derry, Armagh, Tyrone, Monaghan, Donegal in an All-Ireland quarter-final, and that's a game I would say at the moment in Croker. Any of those teams would fancy their chances.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
King is dead, long live the king. I think that this could be their position.
Yeah, but if you asked me to put a pin in where they're going to finish, I would put my neck out and say it'll be a semi-final, and it'll be against Kerry, it'll be in Croke Park, and that would be, regardless of what happens over the next couple of weeks for Dublin, that will be a huge occasion. And I think that there will be that constant fear once you get to the championship and you see more of those players come back into the team, the sort of PTSD about what they've done over the last couple of years, and just seeing the likes of James McCarthy and Michael Fitzsimons and Johnny Cooper up against you, they may, who knows, they may come back to the level that absolutely that they were at a couple of years ago. And even if they're not, there is a sense that those are those guys, and I guess that can strike a bit of fear into the opposition team, especially when you've got championship crowds in Croke Park in the middle of the summer. So I'm not, the death knell isn't sounding yet for Dublin. This is very much reactive, and it's very much reacting to the first couple of weeks of the league, and I think it's hard to make a case that they're anywhere above team number 6 after the first couple of weeks of the league. Where they're going to be in the summer, I think, is a different proposition. A couple of different questions. Like, I mean, after the weekend, it's in that second half that I watched back, for example, in Dublin against Kerry, it was interesting to listen to Kevin McStay really laud Evan Comerford, and there's no question about the talents that he has. Like that late free that he got against the Wind was sublime. But there was also a moment where he almost gives Kerry another goal in the second half. There were a couple of kickouts that go astray, and that was the same against Armagh. The short kick out is kind of like a bit of a nervy thing. To get that pace on the ball when you're kicking it out low to your corner back is a tough thing to master. And I'm sure that he'll come good over the next little while, but in the here and the now, in 2022, when you're trying to get one last tune out of, maybe not one last tune, but one of the later tunes out of those players yet to come back, Comerford needs to tighten things up, I think, a little bit between now and the end of the season. The way he's been lauded about by McStay, the reputation that he has, he's got to come good over the next little while. And yes, there have been great moments that he's shown already, but he is absolutely pivotal to Dublin winning the All-Ireland this year, or trying to give themselves a chance to winning the All-Ireland this year, because I think the performances have been mixed. Doesn't help when you're kicking into a wind and your backs are getting slaughtered. And I mean, there's a couple of those backs who won't be playing in the championship, whereas Comerford will be. So there's a different standard there. But that's just one of the things that I think will be very, very interesting. And I do think Dublin are better than Team 6 when we get to the championship. But as of now,
Team 6,
I think there
Team
are 5
6 to
teams
be out of
better
the
than them.
championship.
In at number 5, up a spot is Donegal. Now, of course, Michael Murphy and Jason McGee both got injured at the weekend. Murphy was gone in the 21st minute. McGee was gone early in the second half. So to beat Kildare, to beat another Division 1 team without Michael Murphy for the majority of the game is a pretty good result. Like, Donegal have been constantly battered as the underachievers in recent years. Part of that is the fact that they play in Ulster, but part of that is also based in the fact that they have excellent players, and someone like Michael Langan is just a glorious footballer. You'd love to see more from him. Scored 4 points at the weekend, and after a draw with Mayo on week 1, Donegal are in a pretty good place, and a very good start for them in 2022 in Division 1. In at number 4 then, I've dropped Tyrone down from the top.
A big drop.
It is a big drop. Like, these are early season rankings though.
Precipitous drop. Are they the biggest dropper?
No, Tipperary are.
Okay, but in
this area of
what
the,
did Dublin go from
park.
3 to 6?
From 5 to 6.
5 to 6.
Yeah, Tyrone have gone from the top down to 4 because of the fact that these are early season rankings. They are necessarily volatile. So, I mean,
this is a horse race. Everybody's jockeying for position. That's what's happening.
They lost half their games at the weekend of the season so far. So, and they haven't won a game yet. So that's the reason why they're down to 4. But like, I still think there were enough impressive signs in the first week in particular to suggest that Tyrone will be fine eventually. And I mean, in the context of this league, that they may even be a contender. But Armagh blew them away in that first half, and the 6-point win at the end kind of reflects well on Tyrone, and maybe kind of speaks to their performance in the second half, actually. And Armagh are in there then at number 3. I mean, they've beaten the All-Ireland champions in the last 7 years in the first 2 weeks. 5-point win against Dublin, 6-point win against Tyrone to bring them up to number 3, and they have been one of the stories of the National League so far. Mayo then are up into number 2. I think winning Monaghan in the National League is an excellent result. You've got the all reliables performing outstandingly well at the back. Paddy Durkin, Lee Keegan, Paul O'Hora, some of their standout performers at the weekend. Like, I think the case for Mayo is that they flipped the cliche on its head, where I think in their case, defence has won them games, but they've realised that attack wins you championships, and their attack let them down in the final last year. And of course, that is the massive injury that they suffered last week with Tommy Conroy. We don't know, I'm not sure if you've seen anything about Cillian O'Connor. We don't know when he's going to come back, and maybe they realise that they've just got to wrap him up and just hope that he performs his best over the course of the championship. But like, they've got a couple of performers who are now filling that void. Like, the goal from Ryan O'Donoghue at the weekend was absolutely class. They do have other forwards, even allowing for Conroy's injury, who are really, really good players. It's just the breadth of attack that you need to win a championship might be the thing that gets them.
I think if you're Mayo, you're feeling pretty good about whatever happens in the Connacht Championship. If you get knocked out, the extra games through the back door will actually be grand for this team because the age profile is fine. You can use Lee Keegan in and out, and we've seen them get animated in the past by the back door. Or if you go straight through the front, it's also perfect because you can plot your course. I think that if they were to suffer a setback, they have the personnel at the moment to go deep into the championship.
I've kept the order on these teams, which means that Kerry goes up to number 1. So Kerry we're in at number 2, and because I've dropped Tyrone off top spot, Kerry go in at number 1. Now, in fairness, part of that is by beating Dublin by 7 points. In fairness, like it's Dublin in at number 6, getting beaten by 7 points. Should that have the credit that I'm giving Kerry?
Well, the burst of 1-9 that they scored
was pretty terrifying, and I think on the evidence of that first half, they're certainly the best team in the country. An argument can be made on the evidence of the 70 minutes, are they the best team in the country, or was there just a natural taking the foot off the gas? Now, Jack O'Connor was pretty annoyed. Like, it's pretty obvious that he was annoyed with the second half performance in Kildare. Would he have allowed such a thing to happen 2 weeks in a row? Like, what's the halftime team talk? I would suggest that it is, don't let what happened in Newbridge happen again. But it did kind of happen again, like scoring 1 point in the second half. Granted, the conditions were appalling to be playing into. What was probably more interesting from what he said, though, was that he was annoyed with how Kerry played and the style of play in the second half in Newbridge, the short passing, the thing that we were very critical of on the show last week.
They diagnosed it.
Yeah, he was like, this is not how I want the team to play. So that is very interesting that he is open about the fact that he wants this to be a direct team, he wants this to be a kick passing team, and that is how this team has to play. It might eventually trip them up in the end, and then very good chance that they'll get caught at some point when it matters most later on this year. But as of now, they're playing the best football in the division.
Kerry are the best team in the country. It's official according to this week's power rankings. Something strange must have happened in the pub in the aftermath, where I've no doubt everyone was saying, look, just don't make them number 1, don't, whatever you do, and he's done it anyway. He doesn't care what the Kerry Mafia are telling him to do. He's his own man. That's this week's power rankings.
I absolutely adore them lads. I have unbelievable time for them, but they're a great bunch, but it's not acceptable.
Right, we're going to take a quick break. We're back talking rugby with Matt Williams.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
But Munster then are mostly filling that bench as well, which is sickening.
Munster legends Alan Quinlan and Niamh Briggs are joining forces to bring you all the latest analysis, news, interviews and so much more.
I remember Declan Kidney shouting in messages saying Wally's to go number 8, I'm go 7 and Donica 6. I just kind of stayed at number 8 and ignored it.
The Red 78 with Alan Quinlan and Niamh Briggs. Available every Wednesday. Don't miss a moment of action. Subscribe to the Rugby channel on the OTB Sports app and turn on your notifications now.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Right, a brilliant competition for you this morning. Aer Lingus, the official airline sponsor of the Irish rugby team, bringing home advantage to wherever the team plays. And to celebrate, we have an amazing prize of a pair of match tickets, flight and 2 nights accommodation to be won for this weekend's Six Nations clash between France and Ireland, as well as a signed jersey. To get your name into the draw for this great prize, just tell us who our mystery voice is.
Props are a different animal. They're like wrestlers or boxers. They have a fighting weight.
To enter, you can WhatsApp the answer to 0879 180 180. You can tweet us at Off The Ball, or you can comment on our YouTube channel, and each daily winner will win an Ireland jersey and will go into the draw on Thursday for the grand prize. It is 12 minutes past 8 this morning. I'm delighted to say Matt Williams is with us. Matt, good morning to you.
Morning, Jim. Morning, Alan.
We had a slightly off-piste conversation a little bit earlier on about French cuisine. I think it's vastly overrated. You're a man who's cultivated a life in France. Is the French food as good as everybody bangs on about?
Oh, mate, not even anywhere close to how good it really is. It's absolutely brilliant. I actually love cuisine de campagne, which is the food of the country. You know, so you got all the tiny little cuisine nouveau, which everyone raves about. It is nice. But when you get the beautiful food that the country people of the south of France or anywhere in the north of Midlands, it's something very, very special. No, it's Ger. Come over here. I'll show you around.
You're talking meats and cheeses and pâtés and that kind of stuff, is it?
It's a country with 250 unique cheeses. So, as de Gaulle said, how do you govern a country that has 250 cheeses? But it is an incredible place, because the food and the wine are just interlinked with the people. And, you know, you're getting 20 and 19-year-olds talking with great passion about wine and food. You know, that doesn't happen in other places. It's just so linked to part of their life. And then look, you forget also it's an agricultural country, where I am in the south, right across the Pyrenees. to rugby heartland, it's an agricultural country.
Yeah, okay, you're sucking me back in there. We didn't talk about the wine, in fairness. We kind of left that bit out. We were just trying to find a way to provoke a French response.
That's the starting point, mate.
It should have been.
Start at the wine and work your way back.
I guess our conversation came off the back of this French team, so good, and yet it's been such a long time since they were title winners. And what is that? What is the flakiness within them over the last period of time that has prevented them from reaching the best team in Europe, which they really should be vying for year in, year out?
I think, Ger, you've got to put a line in the sand and you say before Galtier and after Galtier, and with the national team. And then before that, you've got to say their president, Bernard Laporte, who is a hugely controversial figure, before him and after him. So when Laporte came in, they won the rights to the World Cup, or to host the World Cup in 2023. They then did everything right, because not only did they win the rights to the World Cup, they actually then said, who are the guys that are going to be playing in that World Cup? How old are they now? And they are between 16 and probably 20, but let's say 16, 18, 19 years old. And they really put a lot of resources into talent identification, coaching, education, and conditioning into those age groups. And they brought them through, and they won under-20s tournaments, I think 2 years in a row, and they'll run up in another one. Then we had COVID, obviously. So they've produced 3 or 4 years of really high-quality young players. 4 years ago, let's say, those guys, those guys are now maturing and coming and in this national side. And obviously Dupont and Entamak are the greatest examples of that. Probably Aldred as well is part of that. But it's right across the team, in the front rowers and the second rowers, they're all coming through. Saw Wacky play there in the second row against Italy the other day, another example of that. Then they did, that's the players and that's Laporte. And then Laporte also got the clubs on side. So before Laporte, we look at Johnny Sexton. Johnny's played a very few amount of minutes this year and playing for Ireland, because everything in Ireland is geared towards the national team. And that's correct. That's I'm not in any way criticising. That's the way it must be. And it is in New Zealand, and it is to a lesser degree in Australia, South Africa and so on. But in France, the clubs ruled it. The clubs ran the show, and the national team was very much running to the beat of a different drum. And that's really why the last 10 years they haven't played well, because they don't care. They weren't fit enough for international rugby, because they were constantly playing club rugby. They played club rugby the week before. They played club rugby on the weekend off. And the national team was just left out there somewhere. Galtier has then come in, he's changed all that. The players are rested, they're conditioned, conditioned correctly, and they've got this really talented generation, and he's putting them together. They have played magnificent rugby, but they're a young team up until this year, and they've lost games. The victory over New Zealand was a watershed moment for that team. That's the time that this team really started to believe in itself. Now, it's rugby, and we can't predict that they'll go through and win a Grand Slam. I don't even know if they're going to win on Saturday. But this is a very good team that is capable of winning a championship, and it's either this year or soon. And I think this Saturday will tell us if it's this year or soon.
In a weird way, the problem with the clubs, right, is it had seemed intractable from the outside, but the way you describe going after those 16 to 19-year-olds and ploughing the resources into the talent identification, cleaving them in many ways to the national side at that level, meant that those players, maybe in some cases their first love or their first priority was also international. At that point, it's like, we're going to make you successful at this point. We're going to invest in you because we believe you are the future for the World Cup. It wasn't that the club got all the credit for developing them. It was more symbiotic. The relationship was more deep and more entrenched earlier in those players' careers in a way that maybe it hadn't been in the past.
I think that's a really astute observation, Ger, because it was also their focus on winning the World Under-20 Championship. So at a very young age, they were taught to win for France. And I believe some of that to a much less degree at the under-18 level, where they still play some form of or international or cross-border rugby. So even from very young ages, this generation realised that winning in the French jersey was a super high priority in their life. And then when they go to club, they were also educated on the conditioning. Like the top 14 is the most ridiculous rugby championship in the world. It's got huge amounts of money. But your first game is in late August. And if you win it, like Toulouse did last year, your last game is in the first week of June. So you've got an 11-month of the year playing program, excuse me, in this really heavily contact. I mean, French rugby is so physical and it burns people out. You can't train at the intensity you need to train at for conditioning for international level. So if you're just playing club rugby in France every week, you're just at this level where you've got to survive. You can't train hard. You've got to just recover and get ready for the next game. What Galtier has done is take them out of that system for periods of time. And the clubs hate it, but it's the right thing to do. Rest them and condition them. And this is sort of changed, and the players understand this now. Now, they get a little bit torn, but the deal with the French Federation is also saying to the clubs, you have to reduce your amount of foreign players or you'll get fined. They have to be what they call GIF, JIF, which basically means you are junior that came through the Federation of France. In other words, you came through the academies. And they're saying each year, they put a higher level of the number of locally produced players that you have to have on the field and reducing the overseas players, which again is a very, very good thing for France. So, you saw clubs like Toulon that are now last in the top 14, didn't put anywhere near enough effort into their academies, and they're coming last in the top 14. Clubs like Toulouse have put a huge amount of effort into their academies, are at the top of the game. So these players and the clubs are being educated in a much better way by the French Federation. You then put in the Galtier, puts around his national side a crop of excellent coaches. That was not the French way. The French way was one or two coaches and we'll just run it. He has specialists and they are really good, top quality coaches, and including foreigners like Sean Edwards. The players come out of a French camp and go, wow, that was good. In the old days, before Galtier, they'd come out of a French camp and go, well, they were a bunch of muppets. That wasn't really well run. So they didn't have belief in the system. This group believe in the system. They believe in Galtier. They believe in the coaches, the specialist coaches they have. And the other part is they believe in each other. And that's, the other, whether they win or not this championship, to me it's irrelevant. It's the fact that we have them back as a real player on the international stage because they play such gorgeous rugby and they come up the mountain a different way than the English-speaking world comes up the mountain. They play a different way, they think a different way, and they go about it a different way. And when they do it with great excellence, like Galtier is doing, it is wonderful. And we talked about the French wine. It's the same thing, mate. It's just different. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It's different. French food is different, but it's beautiful. And it's uplifting for us all if we can share it. And the rugby is exactly the same.
What's interesting then is that this is a relatively recent development, Matt. So a lot of the players that are expected to maybe win this year's championship would have come through in spite of maybe some dysfunction in the French rugby environment. So this thing is only going to get better and better from a French rugby perspective, I presume.
This group's got 2 World Cups, and you're dead right. They obviously have targeted 2023 for hosting their World Cup and to win it, and they want to emulate what the footballers did in '99. There's zero doubt that I think that's even up on a wall somewhere in their training centre up in Marcoussis in Paris. But like Dupont is going to be around, and Entermac and Aldred and almost all that team are going to be around to the next World Cup, including Gael Fickou, who was one of the oldest. Gael's 27 now. He could very easily play at the following World Cup in 2027 when he's 32. So this is a really amazing group. And yesterday, Galtier brought in 15 more players. So there's 42 people players in camp at the moment. And you look through the quality of the squad and you look through the depth charts that he's producing. In other words, how many players have you got in each position? So in the let's take hookers for example. He's got 3 real high quality hookers, and Camille Shad, the Racing 92 hooker, who is He's got a physique like something carved out of marble. Like you just can't believe the neck and traps this man has. And he's a quality player. He's been injured. He's out of that. So, but they've still got 3 replacements. And that's, again, another thing that Galtio's doing. He's cultivating depth within this group. They're going to be a force going forward for the next 2 World Cup cycles. And let's remember, they have not dismantled the production line that they set up at the 16s and 18s level for their 20s. So this Friday night, Ireland under-20s will play France under-20s in Marseille. And I only saw highlights, and it was against Italy, but the Italian under-20 side has been playing exceptionally well over the last few years. And I mean exceptionally well. They've come within whiskers of beating France, England. They've beaten Wales and things like this. They're not. It's not like the Open side where there's 50 points between them. The Italian side has been good, and the French under-20s really put in a big shift and won by 40-odd points. So we'll know a little bit more about this group after they play Ireland on Friday night, because Ireland under-20s had a wonderful win against Wales. So it is a long-term production, and it's bringing France back to where they believe they should be, and they rightfully they should be. And both Bernard Laporte and Galtier and the political battles that had to be won deserve a lot of credit, because they had to win the politics before they could win the rugby, and they're winning both.
It's concerning for the rest of us that this is happening. From an Ireland perspective then, Matt, if you were part of the French coaching ticket, if you were Sean Edwards, what's keeping you awake this week about what you've seen from Ireland from really towards the end of last year's Six Nations all the way through to last weekend?
Oh, plenty keeping Sean Edwards awake. The ability, and number one, is the ability of the Irish forwards to pass the ball either to inside, outside, or behind to Sexton or Bundyaki when they're running at full pace and very close to the line. We call that gain line theory. You take the ball to the gain line, to the defence, and then play, which puts your skills under great pressure. Most forwards around the world do not have those skills. And the extraordinary thing about what Ireland are doing is their forwards, like the two Tigers, Tygburn and
Furlong.
Sorry, I got a mental block there. Furlong. And Furlong passed a couple of staggering balls on Saturday. You couldn't believe the passing that man was doing at the game line as they're being tackled. And then the other part that's keeping Sean awake is if they don't pass and just run themselves. So if Furlong just runs himself, that man is a bulldozer. So is Byrne. But then Byrne runs like that, and he put Josh Van der Fleer through the gap. Furlong runs at pace. He's got people either side, and he pops this incredible pass out to Sexton. And Sexton moves the ball wide, and they come back, and that sets up Bundyaki's try. So Ireland's attack is a handful. And then when you get to the behind those players, you've got Sexton and Bundyaki and now Mac Hansen playing as second distributors. And Bundyaki, the improvement of his ball skills has just been extraordinary. Some of those passes he was delivering on Saturday, he couldn't have done those 2 years ago. There's no way he didn't do them 2 years ago. So the skill improvement in players like Byrne and Bundyaki has been extraordinary. And then the other part, we talk about France, this team believes in the system they're playing, this Irish team. They believe in the philosophy that's been put to them by Andy Farrell. The great change, this wasn't a small change, this was a radical change from how they were playing in last year's Six Nations. You go back and look, and it's completely unrecognisable. It's new, it's vibrant, it's brilliant, and Andy Farrell and his coaching team deserve great credit, and the players deserve great credit.
You've been on this, Matt. You've been on this that we should be asking more of ourselves as a race, that the Irish people are creative. And, I remember sitting here being inspired, listening to you going, we should be demanding more of ourselves. We're capable of doing more. And when you ask the players to do more, they will respond to it. And you can see it in all of the players. Like Peter O'Mahony said, even after, and keeps getting quoted, even after a month where he wasn't starting, that it was the most enjoyable month he'd ever spent in Ireland camp. You're not getting through to somebody at that stage of his career, keeping him on the bench and him coming out and eulogising about it unless something special is happening. And that seems to be, they're being asked and trusted to do more and more and more.
You can't deny people their character. right? So if you have to, when you come into a team to maximise the talent of any individual in your organisation, in a business, in sport, you've got to look at the personalities, what's the character of the people, and bring it out, and that multiplies things. So national teams in rugby around the world that play with the spirit of their national character, something happens in them. Now, I can't tell you why. I can't put this down a piece of paper. If I could, I'd make a fortune, but I see it. And I've been in Ireland for almost 23 years now, and the national team has not played with the character of the Irish people. My grandparents were Irish. I was brought up in an Irish house. I know the character of people. It's upbeat, it's positive, it's creative. There's humour, there's joy, and there's resilience, there's mental toughness, there's support, there's all these things that are part of the Irish character. But the national team never showed it because people didn't believe we had the skills. And I used to I've been banging on about this for years. I'd say that's crap. It's because you're not asking them to show their skills. You don't hire Leonardo da Vinci and say, go and paint the back fence. You hire Leonardo da Vinci to paint something, to create something magnificent. So what finally has happened, and long last has happened, we're saying to the Irish national team, get out there and show us what you can do. We're going to give you a loose structure around it. So every time Furlong takes the ball to the line, he's got a forward inside him, a forward outside him, and he's got someone out the back, be it Johnny Sexton or Gary Ringrose or Bundyaki, he's got someone out the back. And they're saying, right, Ty, take it to the line and you make a decision. You do what you think's right. Here's your options. Run yourself past left, right, or out the back. They're your 4 options. Choose one. Off you go, Spider. And you know what happens? He goes to the line and he's making sensational decisions. Tyke Boone, they say, all of a sudden he looks around and goes, oh, give me a bit of that. I'll take the ball to the line and I'll have Josh Van der Fleet on one side. I'll have maybe Jack Conan on the other, probably more likely Caelan Doris, and I'll have, again, my outlet out the back. So he takes the line. What does he decide to do? He sees a hole, passes to Josh Van der Fleet, goes straight through the hole. 2 phases later, Conway scores in the corner. That is what we should have been doing for 20 years. Now, we haven't done it, so, okay, that you can't get the past. What have we got in the present? Because of the way we're playing, not because of the personnel, because of the way we're playing with the personnel, we're going to Paris and Ireland's got a real shot, a red-hot shot at winning in Paris. You had to ask me that in June, I'd say, mate, you're going to come back with the tails between your legs. Because of the way they're playing, the way they changed in November and what they showed us last week, they got a red-hot chance in Paris.
When you mentioned there a moment ago, Matt, about the fact that Bundyaki is passing balls that he perhaps wasn't doing a couple of years ago, that he wasn't maybe able to do a couple of years ago, is that just an attitude shift or is it really skill development that you've seen over the last couple of years?
It's skill development, and Andy Friend, who I know as a coach very well, Andy started with me at the Waratahs a long time ago. He is a coach that believes in skill development, of the development of the whole person, but of skills. He's a coach that is brought up in the running game and the creative game. And he would have been pushing all his players to develop their skills, but you can see Bundyaki has really benefited from that, because every national team benefits from what's done below them. So it's impossible in the time frame for Andy Farrell or Mike Catt to develop skills. You just don't have time. They can maintain them and enhance them, but the development of skills is done at every team across the world at the level below. So if you're seeing Anton Dupont, he's developed those skills at the 18s, the 20s, and at Toulouse, and he brings them to the national side. So there's no difference with that. The same with Tyke Boone developing his passing skills. What I would add to that is that these guys would go to the national camp and they'd see Henshaw throwing those balls and the other players throwing those balls and going, if I don't develop that pass and get that pass right, I'm not going to get in this squad. So the fact that there is this wonderful internal competition within the group, people like, Hugh might get popped out as Henshaw comes back. He's a quality player. Gavin Coombs can't get in the side. He's a high quality player that I really rate. So to get in this side, they're looking around saying, well, I've got to develop this passing. I've got to develop this running. I've got to know this system to be there fast and get into position fast, which is another thing this Irish team are doing brilliantly. They're getting into position in attack in lightning speed. So all of those factors come into play. But yes, the skills are developed by the provinces. And that's why, as I've said on your program, I've written in the Irish Times, I've saying on TV, a great national philosophy starts at the schools, goes to the provinces and the clubs, and then finishes at the national team. It doesn't go the other way. It doesn't start at the national team and come down. That doesn't work. We tried that for 25 years. It doesn't work. It's got to come from the ground up, as the saying goes, and that's what's happening.
So, it sounds like you're giving us a pretty good chance. What's going to happen?
Oh, wow. Sure. Red hot chance. Red hot chance. But that's not going to be easy. Like, that French side will be much better for the run. It was torrential rain in the first half. It stopped, but it's still obviously a slippery ball, but they still compiled 45 points. And French side were very inaccurate. Now, here's the other interesting part about this. Ireland have to take this philosophy on the road for the first time. Now, they're going to Stade de France, which is a magnificent stadium. You saw they're giving out all the tricolours. The national flags of France are going to be out. There's going to be 65,000 flags flying. It is going to be raucous and it's going to be dry. I checked the weather forecast. Now, what does that mean for us as supporters? You talked about the joys of French cuisine. Here is going to be some great joys of watching one of the best games, what I think could be one of the best games of rugby we've seen in years. Two super attacking sides filled with great individuals that can turn a game, and there's a lot up for stakes. There is a Grand Slam. Someone come Saturday night is going to not be able to win a Grand Slam, and the other one is going to be on track for a Grand Slam. So there is, as we say in Australia, there's sheep stations on this. This is valuable. And it's just going to be a ding-dong battle. It's going to be two heavyweights going toe-to-toe. The outcome, I really don't know, Joe. I really don't know. But that is healthy.
Yes.
Because, as I said in June, we didn't have a chance. We're not going in here, there's always got a chance. Ireland can win this game. Ireland can definitely win this game. Will they? They're going to have to execute. They're going to have to play brilliantly. And they're going to have to defend brilliantly. And that's my worry, is what we're doing on the wings. So our defence, through the way we're tackling, the way we're working for each other, and everyone, the technique and the system from the wings in is brilliant. But we're still what we call jamming. That means the winger will look up, and if I'm the right winger and I see attack, I run infield to try and cut that attack off. Now, we saw James Lowe do it last year, and France burned us. Against Wales, we still did it. We saw Conway come in and they got around us, and Mac Hansen did an amazing cover tackle from the far wing. That's what I'm worried about, because France scored all their tries, pretty much, except one, right on the last 5 centimetres of terrain at Stade de France. That's where we've got a weakness.
Right, the glorious uncertainty of sport. Matt, great stuff. Thanks a million.
Pleasure, guys.
Matt Williams there, great as ever, giving us his thoughts ahead of the weekend at 8:37. Fact top 14 is crazy, says Sashin. 11-month programme, French rugby is madness. The French team is another 6-7 years together. OTB is my second favourite sports media outlet, up the Irish. Who's first, Sashin? Come on, tell us. Can't leave us hanging.
Wales Online.
Connor says Matt is the best. That was very enjoyable, it was. Why don't Eoin and Westmeath get a room, asks John.
I've often asked myself that question.
Every Friday it happens here when Eoin and Adrian Barry, who is Westmeath, like he is the he's the NFT in human form of Westmeath. If there was an NFT in human form, it would be him.
It would be, actually. We should get an Adrian Barry NFT. That would be good.
We looked at the price of hotels in France next year for the World Cup, and by God, they're going to ride us. It'll be beans on toast after we pay for it, says John.
Get the camper van now, I say.
That's a much better idea, yeah. And chicken confit is not just chicken on the bone. Ooh la la, says Fergus. I stand corrected. I had to Google the difference of, like, it's slow cooked. It's basically in fat. You cook it in fat. I mean, it's it's grand.
It's crispy skinned chicken.
I mean, like, is most chicken not supposed to be crispy skinned? Well done. In the 1400s, you invented this thing. Congratulations. The the cooking of the campagne that Matt talked about, that got I was literally
garlic
salivating.
juices.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. You're talking about meats and cheeses, pâtés, good quality pâtés, in like tiny little the bread from the fresh boulangère. That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
The high-flown, highfalutin, self-regarding bollocks that you get in Paris. No thanks.
Interesting. That's
John
the
Duggan.
metaphor for rugby.
Good morning to you.
Ger and Eoin, how are we doing?
How are you?
Not bad. Yourselves?
Do you like French cuisine?
Parts of it. There's a place called Bertillon on the Ile-de-France in Paris, which does the most incredible ice creams. I remember having a great praline ice cream there once. I like the crepes, and I do like the bread. But I'm not really a wine man. I can't really understand wine or talk about it with any kind of certainty. So,
well, if you like it, you like it.
I'm more of a Rioja man. So, France is not really a great place for bars. I found when I've been in Paris a few times.
Unless you want to like stand up, have a coffee and a cassis and walk away. That's. Or if you want
to
to
wrong places, John.
Or if you want to shit in a hole in the floor, they still have those toilets everywhere.
I love the nature of Paris. It's a fantastic city, and I've stayed around Montmartre quite a bit, and just love people watching and walking around the place. It's a fantastic place. So I'd love to be there at the weekend, but we're not.
It's 8:40 a.m. A reminder, OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette, at your best face forward with their new and improved razors. What's going on?
Well, look, if you ask me now in February 2022, are we going to be hosting Euro 2028? I'd say yes. Obviously this is a consolation prize for England not getting the World Cup in 2030, because politically it seems that Spain and Portugal are favoured by UEFA to go up against Argentina and Uruguay. So yesterday it was revealed that the FAI are a big part of this, that the Aviva Stadium and Croke Park will be the two stadiums, and it's interesting that hilariously that Casement Park now will suddenly possibly get an acceleration in terms of its redevelopment, because it has not hosted a game since 2013, to possibly be the stadium in Northern Ireland, because Windsor Park is not fit for purpose to host these matches. And as far as Jonathan Hill, the FAI CEO, is concerned, this is a no-brainer.
One of the core tenets of our strategy moving forward and the vision is to unite the country in relation to using football. And I can't think of anything more inspirational than the possibility of hosting the third largest event in the world, sporting event in the world.
A united Ireland brought together by football. That's what I heard when I heard that. I'm not lying. I was like, oh, you're going to unite. The FAI's mission is, do the IFA know about uniting the country bit? Because like that, when we talk about uniting the country, what do we mean? What does everybody mean when they talk about it in an Irish context? Come on, I'm not just me, is it?
Sorry.
I don't know if Jonathan Hill. I don't know if Jonathan Hill meant that.
I don't think he meant that at all.
So
I think he did not mean that at all. But that's what it means in Ireland.
Yeah.
He also
what does uniting the country mean here?
Yeah, no partition.
Exactly.
So
and maybe by 2028 we will. There won't be a joint bid between Ireland and the North. Maybe and it'll be our statement, our stadium encasement that we're paying for.
Maybe he's referring to uniting the country under a different sort of ruler. He did refer to the other four UK FAs, didn't he, in that piece yesterday? Maybe uniting the country was...
That was a pre-recorded piece too. You think that maybe they would... Look, we'll just do it one more time. Just going to do that one more time. Maybe don't talk about uniting the country, because that has a cultural reference. And also, the other UK, I know what you mean. We know what you mean. But no. You're going to say, with the other four... Just say the other four. They don't have to be from a place. And away we go.
Yeah.
I suppose these are the nuances you pick up. Like, the fact that he doesn't live here keeps coming up.
Does it matter?
Maybe it does. Maybe if you're going to be the leader of grassroots football, you need to, be at grassroots football midweek training sessions. Maybe you need to go and see the fact that there's a container that the kids are changing in, and across the road the GAA facilities are like gleaming lights. Maybe you need to actually be here to see that. I don't know, John.
Yeah.
I don't think that it matters to the point where he can't do the job, but I do think at some point, if you're... Because the FAI is a governing body, but it's a community body. And if you're representing a community, you kind of need to understand the community.
It is odd. I'd have to say maybe it's planned that he does, with obviously COVID now coming to an end. You'd have to think the worst of it. all of these things, like in 2028, where's the money? This is all about money. I saw the strategic vision, the third tier of League of Ireland, obviously 750 women's clubs is the ambition. That would be qualifying for major tournaments in both men's and women's soccer Republic of Ireland teams. Obviously, these are always ambitions, but it's all about money, and ultimately the state runs the show. But there should be a payback. There should be a payback. If Ireland are hosting European Championship games and it's worth millions to the Exchequer, there should be some kind of redistribution of wealth from the state to the FAI, but that's 6 years away. And obviously there's a degree of cynicism and grumbling and, here's a new shiny vanity project. I think you can have both, but unfortunately, given the FAI is part of the state of finance, they just have to keep on making representations to the government, because you can't build an industry here and without government support.
Well, look, I think in theory you can have both too. It's just Neil O'Riordan made the point on the show that the FAI is still quite a small organisation. It's undergone restructures. They've had pay cuts, they've had redundancies, and so there's a limited brain space and capacity to chase something like in that case it was the World Cup, right? And that was complete pie in the sky nonsense. This is less pie in the sky nonsense. There's not going to be a new stadium, and so, but you will definitely have people seconded from the day job to work on this project, and the trade-off has to be there. There has to be. We need to see what the trade-off is, and I just remain unconvinced about the long-term legacy of hosting events beyond. It's a great day out. And if everybody says it's a great day out,
and also we might not be there, because I would doubt that they're going to be allowing 5 teams in, whether it's a 24 or a 32 team tournament.
Yeah,
so it could be Poland versus Sweden again.
You would assume that we're in the top 32 teams. You would hope. Sorry, yeah. A crack of the net is the front of the Daily Star. The score in 20s. Bid for €80 million 2028 party as Paddy's Day is back. As Paddy's Day back. Oh, what's that? We're Paddy.
Patrick's Day. No,
Paddy's Day.
Oh.
We're the Paddies, and we're getting our day back.
No, I think it's two different stories. I think they're referring to the bid and they're referring to the return of St. Patrick's Day.
You're right.
We got Man United in action against Burnley tonight in the Premier League, 8:00 start at Turf Moor. Newcastle against Everton, Frank Lampard's first game in charge of Premier League. We also have West Ham against Watford, so really important games for the teams at the bottom. Keith Earls and Rob Herring out of the game against France at the weekend. Earls back with Munster with a hamstring, and Herring's got a calf problem, so Dave Heffernan of Connacht coming into the squad. We saw that Ronan Sheahan, I don't know if you've discussed it in the show as well earlier on, lads, but the Down manager going on Twitter following the win over Carlow in the Allianz Hurling League, and saying that extremely disappointing to come into the dressing room to hear my players being called prods and Brits and other things that he said in that. So
it's mad. This is it's the dumbest people who have recourse to this, and they're dead right to call it out and keep talking about it, because it keeps happening. It's been happening for years. We've seen other teams come off, and it's always northern club teams or northern county teams. And in fairness to him, he said, look, we had to win this game for me to be able to have this conversation, because otherwise it would have sounded like sour grapes. But actually it's not sour grapes, it's just the truth. I think he's definitely putting his hands up as a leader in the GA community, and I'm certainly listening to stuff whenever he speaks at the moment.
Definitely cultural issues in the GA about behaviour, and I even saw a video the other day from our man Tyrone, and the almost enjoyment of aspects of the crowd about the schmozzle and the handbags and the headlocks and the messing. It's a bit loose for me. Maybe I'm just being a bit too, I don't know, pious. But
look, I mean, if it's a fair fight and people are people fighting each other, it's grim, and it's not really what the whole point of it is. But the sucker punch headlock thing, where you wrestle somebody's neck, I don't know, doesn't make any sense to me. Have you seen the Kurt Zouma stuff?
Yeah, that's pretty vile.
He should be sacked, right?
He's apologised this morning since.
Of course he's apologised.
Yeah, too late. Sorry, mate. Sorry, mate.
I don't believe in cancel culture, but that might be an exception, because that was...
I think he can get sacked for something like this, right? He's confirmed it's him.
Yeah.
And what is your character? So if people, there's a video, which I hadn't seen the video, and I didn't realise it was on the front of the papers today. Prem Star's vile attack on cat. West Ham Zouma boots pet across floor. So
drop kicked the cat and then slapped it.
Yeah, and West Ham are going to deal with the matter internally. They don't.
What's they're going to fine him? How much money he's already got?
They don't condone violence, except you're going to keep him playing.
Yeah, it's grim.
What is wrong with people?
And he threw a shoe at the cat.
And the act of filming it and sending it somewhere and posting it, it's I just can't get my head around it. Like it's the first thing I saw yesterday was actually Katie McCabe tweeting about it, saying absolutely unacceptable behaviour. Like you have people within football who are calling this out. Like it's just it's awful and bizarre in equal measure. So I don't know what they're going to do. West Ham. I mean, maybe they look at the apology.
They're going to think this is a very important player for us. We're in a race for fourth. Going to play him at the weekend and keep the head down and do nothing about it. That's what they're going to do, because they lack any moral courage. Like, you can't mistreat animals. You can't mistreat people. Like, there's obviously very serious stuff going on at the moment. That has to play out legally. But this is, Kurt Zouma says he did it. Kurt Zouma's guilty of this. We know it's him. Get rid of him. And football should say, no, I'm sorry. It's not like, oh, you served your time. No, you can go back and spend your millions and live your life. But like, I don't know. It's pretty grim.
Are we going to beat France, lads?
Don't know. France very good. I think it'll be a great game. I think there's years where France were bad and we should have beaten them, and we did beat them. Like the Sexton drop goal, that was not a great French team, and they nearly beat us. And we were a good team. Like a very good team that was on the verge of winning the Grand Slam. This time it feels like we're a good team. They might be slightly better than us, and if they win a classic and we feel alive, that's all I want as a sports fan.
Yeah, I think it's just about us performing and not making too many mistakes. Remember, it was the game in COVID. It was at like late 2020. We made so many mistakes in Paris. We actually had chances at times to win the game. I think that's what I want to see. I really felt the Wales game was almost like a football match when you go to Old Trafford back in the Fergie era and you lose 2-0. That's how Wales lost the other day to Ireland. It was quite comfortable. It was a contained bonus point victory, and that was very promising. And it's going to be fascinating to see now when they're at a higher altitude against the French with their flair and with their fantastic halfbacks, how we're going to cope with it. So it's this is what it's all about. And I think everybody's buzzed about the Six Nations this year. More so than possibly they would have been in the last few years.
So do you think we're going to win?
Yes.
All right.
But virtual insanity was a complete washout last week. So, although I did say 20 points against Wales, so I can hold on to my hat with that. But I feel we might edge a close one here.
Nice. You're not, like, I mean, it was interesting that you did join on the Welsh bandwagon or the Welsh bashing bandwagon with us last week, John. I thought,
what's this us business? You clambered off it.
Sorry, joining Ger on that
absolute
bandwagon.
Coward.
No.
Now that we won, you're like, oh, I'm back on the bandwagon. No. I went over there, I pretended to like them to their faces, and now that I'm back, it's our bandwagon again.
No, I'm on the shore. I'm on the shore staring at you.
His face last week when we were doing our business.
Yeah,
he's like,
I was so disappointed in you guys.
No.
How many Wales figurines you got in your backpack from Grogs?
Oh, loads, man.
Are you going to be hawking the Johnny Sexton and Paul O'Connell ones around town?
Yeah, 100%. So sell them for a marked up price before the game, the next home game. But no, I just wanted to say I was just very disappointed in you, John, and you as well, Ger, for getting
it right. For getting it right.
OTB AM. OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning, start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. We're going to bring you Joseph and Doe's full AFCON wrap a little bit later on, but here's a quick taste of his chat with Joe Malloy.
They have that, I will say, prudent approach to say, listen, it's better not to do too much and go to the final than try to play expansive football. But they have a player who can play that expansive football, and I think also that will help Salah. So at the moment, the system is not based on Salah. Maybe they think that it's based on Salah, but it's not based on Salah. Because Salah's game is based on ball possession. It's not based on defending without the ball. That's not possible. He needs the ball all the time.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I put it to you that I find it hard to believe that Salah enjoys this style of football. I'm sure he has great pride playing for Egypt and loves playing for Egypt, but it just seems like a great waste of one of the great footballers to play this style of football. It's such a waste. It's such a waste. Do you know what else is a waste? Let's stay on that point. Okay, we go with this very, very, very miserable brand of football, and then we get to penalties. And then we don't even let our brilliant footballer take a penalty. I mean, at this stage, I just give up. I'm walking out of the room.
You're on fire today. I need to speak to someone in Egypt. You say Joe is not happy.
I'm really not happy.
More of that goodness coming your way at around about 9:30 this morning. I'm going to give you another opportunity to enter our competition. This is an absolutely brilliant prize that we have for you. There's daily prizes of jerseys up for grabs, but our special competition for you is that Aer Lingus, official airline sponsor of the Irish rugby team, bring home advantage to wherever the team plays, and to celebrate, we have an amazing prize. Pair of match tickets, flights and 2 nights accommodation to be won for this weekend's Six Nations clash between France and England, between France and Ireland, as well as a signed jersey. To get your name in the draw for this great prize, tell us who our mystery voice is.
Props are a different animal. They're like wrestlers or boxers. They have a fighting weight.
To enter, you can WhatsApp the answer to 0879 180 180. You can tweet us at Off The Ball, or you can comment on our YouTube channel, and each daily winner will win an Ireland jersey, and we'll go into the draw on Thursday for the grand prize as well. And that's the same number. You can get your comments in for us. You can leave a comment on the YouTube channel as well. Now, we want to move on because Bellator is returning to Dublin's 3 Arena on Friday, February the 25th. That's just 3 weeks away at this stage. It features a massive domestic clash between Leah McCourt and Sinead Kavanagh, who are both ranked 4th and 5th in the featherweight division. And I'm delighted to say Sinead Kavanagh is with us this morning. Sinead, how are you getting on?
How are you, lads? I'm all good.
Less than 3 weeks to go, really, at this stage. How is the preparation? What's your level of fitness and expectation like at the moment?
Everything's going well. I even have wrestler here. I've a swollen ear from wrestling, and everything's going well. I'm looking forward to the fight. I prepared well, and I just had obviously just a training camp before this one, so everything's looking great.
The wrestler ear, is that something that you've obviously targeted in advance of this fight? Does that mean you're doing more wrestling sparring in the build up to this one than normal?
Yeah, I've been I love wrestling anyway, so I do that every week, every Friday. It's a hard class to do, and I do it with the best. I'm doing it with Sergey, and yeah, it's just a bad thing. It's terrible looking.
The scars of battle. It's it's like I thought. Is it not something that you're kind of proud of? A bit of a mark that this is who I are. Come and get me.
Yeah, well, I think the lads love it, but I don't think I need it. So I don't.
When does when's the worst part of training camp for you? Is it these next few weeks where it's hardest, where actually the fight comes really into focus, or are the next couple of weeks the best because you're feeling the fittest and most ready to go?
Everything's going well. These few weeks now, we're just getting the training and just thinking of what you need the most, you know. And the thing I hate is water loading. It's when you have to drink a load of 7 litres of water a day, like, you know. So that's no fun, especially in the cold.
Is the point of the water loading so that you're flushing everything out of your body, but also then when the weight cut happens towards the end, you're kind of ready to lose a lot of liquid if you have to on the day?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so just preparing your body for losing a few more pounds before the fight, you know. Pounds that, like, it's hard to get off you, so that's what you do.
And is the weight cut something that you are okay with generally, or is it actually getting harder and harder as you go on?
Oh no, it's getting easier. Like, my body's getting used to it now these days, you know. So it's my body's used to it, you know. And every time you don't get used to the weight cut, like, but you get more prepared for it.
How long does it take after the weight cut for you to, or any fighter really, to get back on form or to be back in the zone again and to be back feeling good about life? Is it a couple of hours, or how quick is that turnaround?
Yeah, it's a couple of hours. Yeah, once you get your liquids back in and you start to feel, a few hours then later you'll start to feel a bit more normal, a bit more with it again, you know.
Just to go back to the difference between the boxing and the wrestling, you started your international career as a boxer. That's kind of, I think, how people might have been familiar with you first. So I don't know. I mean, but I'm assuming that was something that's a skill set that you rely on in moments of crisis. Then you have to acquire the skills of wrestling to become competitive at MMA. Is that something that you need to keep working on the boxing skills still, because like, you know, you double down on your own strength, or how do you get that balance in your training?
Yeah, it's like I've actually gone back to boxing. Like, for this fight, I feel like that I've got a bit like sloppy, like, you know, the fights, you know, and I just need to go back to a boxing club and train with the boxers. Like, it's a very hard sport. Like, you have so many different sports in one sport. Like, and I'm doing wrestling and doing jits, and yeah, you just have to you can't let one slip, and you just have to keep up with every sport. Like, and it's very hard on the body, you know.
Well, I was going to say, even the balance and brain space and time. It's like this week I'm going to map out my training sessions, and part of it is going to be wrestling, part of it's going to be kicking, part of it's going to be boxing, part of it's going to be defending, all those as well.
Yeah, that's what you do. Yeah, you have a special day for what you're going to do, and just hope you're not so tired to do it, you know.
And is that the case this late in the training camp, Sinead? Is it still a fairly varied programme?
Yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing every day, you know. I have that. It's like a sync now with my body to know what I'm doing every day.
When do you start thinking about tactics for the fight? Has that already come into view?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you think about that, I suppose, when you know who your opponent is. I'll know what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, and yeah, try to bring that into the training, try to get that with spars, and get people to kind of act like her and fight like her, you know.
For a fight like this, where you know your opponent so well, and you've known Leah for a long time, again, it's I guess it's double-edged. On one side, you're like, okay, there's a comfort, you know exactly what's going to happen. On the other, it's not that you get complacent, but she might do something that you don't expect, and that could be more shocking because you're supposed to know what she's going to do. So how do you prepare for what she's preparing?
You don't really, because we haven't sparred in a long time. Like, we know each other, and we've done some good things for each other, you know, for our training camps and stuff like that. But we kind of like distanced ourselves the last while, and because we kind of knew this was gonna happen. So I think Leah has improved, and so has I. So I don't think we know what each other is gonna do. You know, we just have to wait for the night and just feel about it that night.
Talk to us a little bit about the aftermath of the Chris Cyborg fight. What was your recovery like from that? 'Cause physically, obviously, you know, it's important to recover, but psychologically as well, the impact that a loss like that can have on some fighters, it's going to make them say, right, that's enough. On other fighters, you've clearly decided that you want to come back and you know, maybe get another crack at a title at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Like she's the best in the world, like, you know, and I went in there to win, you know. The other girls went in there to survive. I went in there to throw down. I went toe to toe with Chris Cyborg, and I hit her and she hit me, and it was someone was going to get laid out, you know, and it was just it was me this time, you know. But yeah, of course I want to go back there. Like I turned her off. I done some great things in that fight as well, you know. I turned her off the cage. I put her on the cage, and I just went for it then. So yeah, I want to fix my mistake and get back there again and fight her, you know.
And I don't know, do you go through the video of it and go, right, that's the bit where I lost this fight. If I was to be in the situation again, I would do this differently. Is it, or is the fight too difficult to watch in that minute detail?
No, that's exactly what I've done. Like, I know what I've done wrong, you know. I rushed it. I rushed it too much. Like, you know, I rocked Chris Cyborg at the start of the fight with a right hand, so you know, I'm doing something right, you know. So I just had to fix my mistake, and I'll go again against her.
Is it a defensive thing then? Like, do you work on your defence to make sure that the next time when she comes, like that you have a plan in place.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll just keep the straight shots in. Like, you know, I gave her, I went too close to her and I got caught, you know. So keep me distance next time. Straight shots, and that's it.
I think there was some talk in the build up to this fight that you might get a chance to spar with Kelly Harrington. Did that happen? Is that going to happen, do you think?
Yeah, well, I've been talking to Kelly, you know, and she said that she was going to fit me in. She's busy at the moment, you know. She has that book and stuff coming out, isn't it? But yeah, she said she'll fit me in soon. So hopefully that'll be this weekend or next weekend, you know. And then that's it. I'll wrap it up then.
Have you sparred with her in the past?
Oh yeah. Sparred Kelly loads of times, you know. Kelly's a good girl, and we big each other up and we go for each other's heads and all, you know. So we do our best for each other, yeah.
Sinead, what's the future for you in this sport, do you think? Like, how important a fight is this? What does victory mean, and what could defeat potentially mean?
I'm doing what I love, you know. I love this game. I'm doing this a long time, and the victory is getting back to the title, you know, getting back where I could be world champion, you know. And defeat is, I'll just keep going again until I have to give it up, you know. It's a fact of life when you get taken down, you know, when something hits you hard, like, you just have to get back up and you have to keep on going. And I love this game, and I ain't giving up until I get what I want.
Where does that drive come from for you?
Well, it's either give up or, like, I do what, like, you know. I love this, and it's just a matter of, it's a life lessons from before, where you don't give up in life, you know. You have to just keep going no matter what life throws at you, like. So I'm going to do my best here, and that's all you can do. And I've been prepared for this fight, so I'm ready.
There's a really brilliant interview with you in the paper at the weekend, and you know, people can check it out and see some of the stuff that you've come through. It's very interesting, the relationship with your son. Obviously, you know, you want to be a leader in his life as much as you can, but at this stage he's also an adult now. So is that part of your drive as well, that you don't want to give up, that you kind of feel like you're passing something on to the next generation?
I just love this. I love the fight, and I love this the whole preparation. It keeps me busy, keeps me head busy, and yeah, of course, life itself wasn't. I went through a difficult path at the start, so I just try to keep ahead and try to keep busy, you know, and that's what part of life is to do.
Was it a big decision for you to tell people about your backstory, or was that something that you were happy enough to share?
I think I came to a stage in my life where I just was comfortable in sharing it, where I wasn't before, because I used to carry it around with me still. I was still going through it, I think, where this time I've kind of got over it. It's in the past now. I'm moving forward and focusing on different things.
And like, you know, at the end of the piece, you were asked about maybe becoming a motivational speaker or something, or going and sharing your story with people, and, like, you know, you could do this in parallel. You don't have to wait until you're finished to tell that story. Is that something where you think that, like, you can become a role model, where you can actually show that there is an alternative outcome possible, no matter how bad the situation might seem?
Yeah, I do. I do think that, like, even coaching kids and giving them just something like they can take their life somewhere else, you know, they can take this to another level, like, you know, they can fight the best in the world, and you just have to keep just believe in yourself, and you might get there. That's all I can do. Like,
I think, Sinead, it's important too to hear stories like yours. We have a terrible thing where we reduce people in care, or people who become homeless, to statistics and we don't really know their stories, and we don't really know what went into the whole range of different things that go into a family member becoming homeless, for example. And I thought, you know, the story that you told about your sister and your own life and the different paths that you guys are on at the moment, like it's impossible for people to really know what went into somebody falling into homelessness, and homelessness being something, and also then the fact that it's a decision that we make as a country to allow this to happen. That's why I think it's important that your story gets told.
Yeah, you never judge a book by its cover, you know, and people judge people all the time, which is wrong, you know. They don't know anything about them, and I'm one for that story to tell, like, not to judge. Yeah, it's a sad story, of course, you know, and from my sister and stuff, the way she is, and it's hard to like see her. Like, I go through town and she's there, you know, and just it's hard. It's hard watching her.
I'm sure, like, that's the thing, right? And the rest of the country, we get to walk past and we read the stories and we hear the politicians debate on the radio about homelessness and the housing crisis, but actually, you know, in your family it's a real thing, and that's why, like, there's a humanity involved in you telling that story that actually reaches people in a way that no debate on the radio about whether or not we need to build more social and affordable housing is actually going to reach people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just hard. It's just seeing people like that, and you don't know their background, and just seeing people like families and stuff, and yeah, it's hard, and it's a big issue here in Ireland with homeless people, like, and they're everywhere, like, absolutely everywhere, and it's it's terrible to see, you know.
Yeah, and look, we don't need to labour this anymore, but like your career and your willingness to fight and your desire to keep fighting was something that it sounds like was important in helping you make good decisions along the way to turn away from any of the potential pitfalls, like drug use, for example. You know, you said in the piece of the weekend that heroin was everywhere at various stages and in various places that you were. How important was having an outlet in sport in giving you focus?
Yeah, very much important. Like, it kept me on a good path, like, and it kept me going. Like, it kept me getting up out of the bed and just training. Could bring the young fella with me, and yeah, and I met my coaches. All my coaches were great to me. You know, they seen something special in me, and they've always looked after me, and yeah, it kept me going. It just kept me on a good path, and I'm very thankful for what I do, what a talent that I was given to keep me on that path, because I could have ended up on heroin, like, stuff like that.
So, what age did you start boxing properly then?
I done karate and then kickboxing, and then I done boxing. So I've been doing a lot of sports all over the years, and then I done MMA. I started MMA when I was 28, which was it was late in the game, but there I fought the best in the world, you know. So as I said, I'm doing something right, you know. To get that far is a blessing.
Yeah, because you boxed for Ireland. You were on a Katie Taylor, one of her teams, I think around, was that 2009? Was it around then, 2010?
Yeah, around there, yeah. I went to the qualifiers in the Olympics. I didn't make that, like, but yeah, I've been around. I boxed for a long time. I boxed Tasha Jones, Savannah Marshall. I boxed all the top girls, and yeah, it was, I learned a skill in boxing. You know, but I just got too much, and I fell out of love with boxing, so I joined MMA then.
Falling out of love with boxing, was that because of the judging and just how difficult it was to actually get a fair crack of the whip, or was it the sport itself?
Yeah, and funding as well. Like, they didn't fund the AIBA didn't fund us, like, you know, and it was yeah, it was hard. I had a son. I needed to make money, you know. And the judging as well. Like, look at with Michael Callaghan, like, that was on the telly. Like, but if it wasn't on the telly, what else goes on? And I seen how dark it can get, like, all the corruption.
And MMA then was a release in some ways. Like, it was, you know, it's professional. You know what's going to happen, and you were going to get paid for doing something you really loved.
Exactly, you know. I walked in and I wanted to go do a few. There was no money in the pro boxing here, you know. So I went into John's gym, and then, like, yeah, we done a few amateur fights, and I went pro, and that was our game plan to do, like, you know, was to go pro as quick as we can, you know, just get some fights behind me. And John's been very good to me, you know. Like, I walked in there and I was 75 kilos. I boxed for, and he was just like, "You're not going to box at 75." He brought me to a nutritionist, and he looked after me, you know, and he got me down to 66 kilos. So he took this for another level for me, you know.
And was that a difficult process? Like, the nutritionist says, "This is your new diet," and you're like, "Oh man, that doesn't sound like much fun." Yeah. Well, I was just like, "What do you have for breakfast?" I was like, "Cheerios." And he's just like, "That has to go," you know.
What do you replace?
It was different.
What do you end up replacing Cheerios with, out of interest?
Porridge.
Fair enough. How long does it take you to get used to that way of life, Sinead? And I guess even just getting used to the fact that John Kavanagh has shown so much trust in you at that point, and you realise, right, this thing is beginning to work out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I done it from the start, and I changed my body shape, and like, I don't go up as heavy as I did. Can't even make 75 if I wanted it now, you know. Yeah, John put a lot of trust in me and love as well from the start, like, you know. And like, he wanted to know my story, and I told him my story, and then he was like, "Okay, like, well, you're special, like, anyone else would have gave up." And yeah, he's been nothing but nice to me, like, and I absolutely love John.
Because I was going to ask Sinead, like, how much of a community feel is there within the gym? How much of an environment is there for you to feel comfortable sharing your story? Clearly there is quite an environment for that.
In the gym?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, I just said it. I just said it this time around, because I said I was over it. I'm over it now, you know. Yeah, I don't go around talking about it to everyone, you know. I've said it, and either you know it or you don't know it. It is what it is.
Somebody's just texted in saying there's a book in your story. I do think that's true. You know, I think it's brave to tell your story when sometimes it's difficult and it feels like there's trauma there, and you said you're still kind of living with it through or dealing with it, and it's always going to be who you are. But John Kavanagh, it sounds like, was right. There is something really special in being able to come through those things to get to a point where you're fighting for a world title, where you're going to be at the Three Arena in a couple of weeks' time, and it's going to be absolutely massive. And, you know, it's fairly clear that you're going to be the home favourite on the night as well. So do you get to enjoy those moments, or on the night itself, is it purely and utterly focused on the fight itself? How do you make sure you feed off the crowd while not becoming too caught up in it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to fighting in Dublin again. I haven't been there since 2017, you know. Yeah, and of course it's special to me that because I had that dream. That's what got me up out of bed. That's what happened, and I'm actually living it, you know. And there was something in me that just kept saying, "Keep going," and I've just proven that I did do that for me, you know. And Three Arena then with the crowds, yeah, it's very hostile, like, you know, it's real Viking gladiator stuff. So yeah, I'm glad that I have the Irish crowd behind me for this one, because they're a crazy lot. But yeah, I'm just going to go in there and fight and put on a show, what I do, you know, and I'm not afraid of anyone in there, and I'm just going to prove why I'm there.
We wish you the very best of luck, Sinead. It's a remarkable story. Thanks a million for sharing it with us.
Thanks a million. Thanks for having me.
Sinead Kavanagh there, and that fight is on Friday, the 25th of February. It's Bellator in Dublin's 3 Arena. It's obviously a massive clash between Sinead Kavanagh, who you've just been listening to, and Liam McCourt, who we had on a couple of weeks ago, ranked 4th and 5th in the featherweight division. You can get in touch with us if you'd like this morning. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number, or of course you can get us as well at Off the Ball AM on Twitter. Here's what we've got on OTB Sports Radio today. OTB Gold is Jerry Eisenberg, the legendary boxing scribe, who spoke to us about his relationship with Muhammad Ali. He's got a new book out actually about his relationship with Ali. Dadcast at 3, career retrospective is Kieran Fallon at 4, and Ronnie Delaney is OTB Gold at 6. And then the show will be live tonight from 7 as well. Up next this morning on OTB AM, it's Graham Geraghty.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
You would have looked at Chelsea versus Brighton before the weekend and said, well, that should be a definite 3 points for Chelsea, but that's just not how this league is going at the moment.
Keep up to date with the latest WSL action and the biggest interviews.
She was my eyebrow raise as well.
Subscribe to the Koi Gig podcast stream on the OTB Sports app now.
With prices from only €289 for fully comprehensive car insurance, everyone's making the jump to getsetgo.ie. New business policies only. Prices subject to minimum premiums. T's and C's apply. MCL Insurance Services Limited Trading is getsetgo.ie is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
It's 20 minutes past 9. Andrew's been in touch to say Westmeath's NFT would surely be Joe Dolan. Sorry, Adrian, but obviously you can't do that because it was a joke in the first place, but Adrian's alive. That's why he can be the bodily representation. It would be a hologram. You could actually have an NFT of Joe Dolan now.
It's true. I would say that John Aldridge would have been Adrian's choice for an NFT.
I know, but that's surely he's a Scouser.
What was his Westmeath Mount Rushmore? It was John Aldridge and Paddy O'Shea on there anywhere.
I think so, yeah.
Alongside Niall Horan and...
Was Niall Horan and Joe Dolan on it?
Yeah, possibly.
Sora Wright says, the Irish character is noble and spirited, but like any large group of people, at least half of us are bollockses. It's about right, 50-50.
I think that's being generous. I think it's well more than half of us.
The Connacht fans get very upset when you say that Bundy's skill set has improved playing with Ireland. Bundy has had the ability to play like this and has done for Connacht. He now has the lads taking lines knowing they'll get the pass, change of game plan / freedom to play. I do think that all of this can be true. Bundy may have had these skills, but actually they have got better. It's the same with Tadhg Furlong. Tadhg Furlong's skills have got better because these are elite athletes practicing in an environment where they're tasked with getting better, and so therefore they are getting better. This is not an insult on Connacht. The same thing has happened with the Leinster players. Like Robbie Henshaw is getting better and better. Gary Ringrose is now playing better than he ever has. This is not a slight on the coaching ticket or the stuff that was going on before. Stop being so bloody sensitive.
But there's also an element of the handbrake coming off and those skills being more on show. But because the skills are more on show, you're doing it more and your skills are getting better as a result of doing it more. But it is interesting that he kind of points to, Matt Williams, points to the fact that Andy Friend has played such a brand of rugby at Connacht that allows him to get that reputation.
Yeah, he's literally praising Andy Friend while the Connacht, okay, you're allowed to say that. You're allowed to say that he's doing it because, everybody's so ready to be upset about stuff. We're going to bring you the full Joseph Doe interview with Joe Malloy a little bit later on. But up next, our own Aisling O'Reilly has been talking to Meath legend Graham Geraghty. Have a look.
Graham Geraghty, I'm delighted to be joined by a Meath legend. Me being a Meath woman as well, it's brilliant to have you on. And it came about because I had seen Paddy Curtis, who was the manager of the college team out in New York. He had actually put up a video on Instagram, and it was of you shoveling snow in Gaelic Park. And I texted him and I said, is that Graham Geraghty? And he said, yeah, geez, he's over and he's coaching the lads here. And I said, geez, how did that come about? But it was just so great to see you doing so well. And how did it all come about?
I was actually over visiting Paddy at Thanksgiving, and he'd taken over the college team because he'd won the championship the previous year, so he got to be the manager. I think that's how they select it. And he was starting training that week and asked would I come and take a session with him, so I did. And I enjoyed it. They enjoyed it, and he asked me back then in January to do a kind of intense kind of 10 days training with them. I think the reason behind that was because most lads are away at college in different areas of the state, and they were all off at that stage, so they're all back in New York, and it was only probably time that would get everybody training collectively. So the timing was good for me and for him.
And these are all American-born lads, like 18 to 24 years of age. What's the skill level like?
I was actually very surprised, and I played in New York years ago, back in I suppose the early 90s, and I suppose the skill level at that time, and most of them were Irish. It wasn't great, but it's come on leaps and bounds since then, and most of these guys are playing since they were probably 5 or 6 anyway. Having probably most of them are, their parents are Irish anyway, so they grew up playing Gaelic football and with the Gaelic ball. So I was very surprised with the skill level they have, and the commitment as well. So it's like we're looking forward. They're coming over here in 2 weeks, so we're really looking forward to meeting up with them again and starting. I suppose like we'll have a challenge match on the Wednesday they're here, and then they play Friday and Saturday. So we're looking forward to see how they get on against the Irish teams here.
Yeah, definitely. And would any of these lads be on the New York team?
I'd say there's probably going to be maybe 4 or 5 of them maybe on the panel. So I don't know. They're only kind of in pre-season at the minute. There'll definitely be some of them on the junior team anyway. I think they come over here as well to play in the junior championship. But there probably 1 or 2 of them would definitely be good enough to be on the senior team anyway.
Jeez. And you obviously managed Blanche IT. So when you train them, say, and then you train the New York lads, is there much difference in the skill?
I suppose like when I was training Blanche, then we probably had a couple of county players, so that's the only difference. Now there was a lot of kind of lads that were, mediocre club footballers as well that were on the panel, but like you have, I suppose that's the mixture you have in every team. But I think that the one thing with the New York lads is they'd know each other from playing against each other, week in, week out. The college lads here might have seen one lad, from one end of the year to the other, or when they're in college. So that's the, I suppose, advantage that they have that way. But the big disadvantage they have is that they don't have challenge games. They can't play against anybody really, only the New York juniors or some of the senior team as well. So that's the disadvantage they have coming over, that they don't have those, the luxury of having, pre-season games or even, they enter at the semi-final stage here. So the guys that they'll be playing against would have had, come through the league base of the championship. So that's the disadvantage that they have.
Yeah, they don't get as much game time. And what did you make of Gaelic Park? You said you were out there in, I think it was 93, 94. I was actually out there in 2013. I remember people telling me that you had come out years ago, and I think it was Meath Juniors you played on.
The Meath Juniors, I think they disbanded then. But we were after winning the under-21 championship here. So there was 4 or 5 of us of that under-21 team that played in New York. It was a local fellow here beside me, Jerry Healy from Beliber. He was the manager of the team, and they brought us out for, I think we were there probably for 6 or 7 weeks, and we ended up winning the championship. But it was only a junior championship. It was great I suppose for them, they hadn't won it before, and I suppose for us going out as well, it was it was great to, I suppose, make it worth your while travelling, that you did come home with something.
Oh, absolutely. And when I went out for 3 months, and I didn't come back for 3 years. That didn't happen to you?
No, well, it nearly did. I think the rest of the lads were getting ready to go, and I said, I don't think I'm going to go home. I'm just going to stay here. And I got cold feet at the last minute, so I ended up coming back.
And just talking about as well the Blanchetown IT, so you actually, if I'm right in saying, actually went back and played for them.
Yeah, so I think that came about. I was training the college, and I trained them to that Division 3 championship, and then the following year, then we won the Trench Cup, and I actually went back to college then, so I ended up playing then in the Segerson. I always wanted to play a Segerson Cup anyway, and because I was the manager, I was able to pick myself anyway. So that was the one advantage of it.
Oh God, make the team around you.
Yeah, but I had great help there with Val Anders as well. So he was lecturing at college too, and he, I suppose, typical Val, he comes in when we're doing well and tries to take over, but he was a great help as well. Yeah.
And so you would have probably been in your late 30s at that time?
I was when I was playing Segerson, I was 40. So
oh right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I actually played the following year as well, so I would have been 41 playing. Probably one of the oldest.
That's some going, fair play.
Yeah, listen, it was, I suppose, the fact that we hadn't huge numbers either, you know, it was easier. If any of the bigger colleges, you probably wouldn't have even got on the subs bench, but take advantage of every opportunity anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And you actually went on to do a course and then went into being a social worker actually after that.
Yeah, I'm a social care worker with 3 steps. So I've been off actually for the last year or so. So I'm come back now in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to that now. It's been a long haul getting back, but we have to go back sometime.
Yeah, no, that's great. And they obviously gave you some time off as well.
Yeah.
And what sort of work do you do with them, or what's it like?
Well, I suppose like the houses I work in, they're residential houses, so the kids stay there full time. They're there for different reasons, maybe for broken homes or you know, for several different reasons. So we just kind of look after them and trying to educate them in the way of life really, and prepare them for moving on. They stay with us till they're 18. There are some exceptions where they stay longer, but just, you know, get them ready for life and get them ready for work and really to just and get them back into society.
Brilliant. And obviously we all heard about your illness that you had, and you're saying there that you took some time off. It was quite a serious illness. I remember when the news broke, I think it shook not just the GA community, but it shook literally a lot of people across Ireland. How are you doing now?
I'm doing good now, thank God. As I said, it was a long road, but mostly like tiredness now is still a big thing, but just, you know, that could take a couple of years to get over that. Maybe I'm just getting older as well, but it's, you know, like 3 steps have given me all the time I need to, so to get back right. And, you know, so as I'm ready to move on and put all that behind me. But you know, so the family have been very good to me, and friends. So it's you know, it's time to move on and try and put it all behind me at this stage.
Oh, absolutely. As you said, it must have been a very difficult time for your family and friends as well. And just mentally to understand why it happened or how it happened, because I think I remember listening to the first podcast you had did was, I think it was with Oisin McConville. It was the first time I had heard since it all happened how you were doing, and you had said that it just sort of came out of nowhere. So mentally, is it hard to sort of understand all of that?
Yeah, I suppose like I was at work and a colleague was with me, Ian Daly, and I was just chatting to him. It was about 10 o'clock at night and I just got a pain the front of my head. I just thought I was getting a headache, and it just kind of went straight through my head into the back of my neck, and it was horrific. Like, he knew straight away there was something not right, and he rang an ambulance straight away, got me downstairs and put me on the couch, and you know, I suppose it was his quick thinking, and I suppose the ambulance service from Navan Hospital there, I think they were there in about 20 minutes, you know, so I got in straight away and they diagnosed what was wrong straight away, so I was able to kind of get the help I needed quickly, and that was the key, I think, really, you know. So I had the operation then the following day. I think it was an 8-hour operation, so it was huge, like, you know. But thankfully I came out the other side of it, you know, with no real side effects as such. So you know, delighted with the care I got in Beaumont, and I suppose like care like afterwards as well, even the amount of goodwill and good wishes that I got from, I suppose, all over the world as well, which surprised me kind of in a way too, you know. So all the expats, I think, in Australia and Canada and America, England.
It's amazing, and I think sometimes it shows just what the GA community can do for you and can be there for you, especially when you go through these times. There really was a big outpouring. I spoke to Trevor Giles around that time. We had an interview scheduled, and he said he had, texted you and just wished you well and all of that. One of the messages actually seen was from Kieran Donaghy as well. He just put up on Twitter that you were his first roommate in the international rules and you looked out from at that time, and we just wished you well. So no, it's great to see you doing so well again.
It is, and it's nice to get those messages as well, I suppose, from lads you played against, people you don't even know. But it does help, and I suppose the first couple of months were difficult, but as I said, we get over all these things, and there's worse people after me out there, so there's no point in, I suppose, thinking about it too much.
Well, it's great to hear you doing so well. And just speaking about the international rules, did you enjoy playing it, the physicality of it?
I did, yeah. I think that was probably the thing that appealed to me kind of more so than the game itself, because it can be scrappy. The physicality we don't probably get as much now in the GA, and I think that was a spectacle for everybody really to they always knew there was going to be contact or a row or something. I think that's appealed to a lot of the Irish people as well, but it did get overboard. I think it was in 96 kind of, it got a bit, I think it was in Crow Park. Sean Boylan could have been the manager at the time. It did get very aggressive, and I think the tackle after the ball, or the antics of after the ball was gone, was a bit too much. But it's good to see it back again, but for me it's not the same as it was, to take the physicality out of a bit, and I think, as I said, did appeal to a lot of the spectators going to the games.
You had a serious injury. I remember it was like your neck, wasn't it? It came down right on top of you.
So that's what I said. Like the tackle itself was fine, but the fact that I had my arms trapped, I couldn't protect myself when I was falling. I banged my head off the ground and I was knocked unconscious. So I probably should have spent the night in the Mater Hospital, but I decided to leave, which I shouldn't have probably, But,
where did you go? Did you just want to go out, or what was going on?
No, I went back to the reception. I ended up going back to the hotel. I think I went to bed then early because I wasn't feeling well. So obviously had a bit of concussion still. So not wise.
Not wise, no, not at all. And obviously it's brilliant to play for your country. And then, as you said, playing against lads and playing with lads that you probably, had rivalries against. How did you get on with all of them?
Yeah. I would get on. I suppose the fact that we were training here for maybe 5 or 6 weeks beforehand, and then when you go out, then you're obviously, you're training every day. Was as I said, I stayed with Kieran Donaghy here, and then I went to Australia, and they were calling it the room names, and it was Graham Geraghty, and I said, please don't put me with Kieran McGeeney or something. So Kieran McGeeney, I said, oh Jesus, no, because we over the years we would have kind of knocked lumps out of each other. I said, I had visions of waking up during the night and he kicking the crap out of me or something. But no, pure gentleman, but he's obviously, he doesn't, on the pitch, he's a fiery character, but off it, he's one of the nicest lads you'd meet, But we played times like that. He
probably thought the same about you.
Probably, yeah. But I suppose over the years, all our pre-season or pre-championship games, we would have played Armagh in probably a month before the championship started, and it was just the referee would throw the ball in, and I think they used to get Pat McEnany to referee most of the games because he just throw the ball in and that was it. Then we'd knock lumps out of each other, but once it was over, then that was it. Kind of to prepare us for what was to come. But to play with some of the best players in the country was fabulous. And I suppose the trips away are always special as well because we're all together every day. You eat and drink together. And I was going to say sleep together, we didn't.
Thank God you didn't. But I'm sure that you kept good friendships with them over the years then.
Yeah, you'd always be in. Well, you wouldn't be in contact with them that much, but if you meet them out and that, you'd always have something to talk about. All right.
Brilliant. And another interesting thing about you is that you actually had trials with Arsenal. I always remember this story growing up.
Yeah.
And then you think, geez, what could have been, like, if you maybe concentrated on soccer, do you think that could have been the path you would have went down?
I don't know. I hadn't played a huge amount of it here. I always played the Kensington Rovers and we were in the Meath District League, but to get that call was out of the blue, totally. Really, it came through Alex Ferguson, I think, being at the Meath Dublin game, and he commented on, I think, myself and Tommy Dow, and one or two of the Dublin players. But I got a phone call from, I suppose, Arsenal to go for trials. So I thought I'd done well over there, but I think the time they were looking for someone to replace Lee Dixon, and I just wasn't ready for that. But I think if it was left, probably, you'd need probably 6 months a year to get your kind of bearings and to get in on the whole professional kind of soccer end of it. But listen, it wasn't for me. I come back here and I suppose Gaelic was my first love, and that's really what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and me as a Meath person, thank God you did. Yeah, I'm delighted you chose the path you did.
Yeah, we had a few good years after that. So yeah.
Well, I might bring you down memory road if you don't mind. The 1999, you captained Meath to the All-Ireland that year. I remember you lifting the cup. It was in the middle of Croke Park, actually on the pitch, wasn't it?
Yeah. I suppose that was it was a good thing, and I suppose a bad thing for me as well. I suppose any player wants to, play for the county, and then the captain and winning Ireland was fantastic, and everyone wants to climb the steps of the Hogan stand. But I think for safety and crowd reasons that they tried that year, I think. But the positive thing about it was when I went round kind of the perimeter of the pitch afterwards, you see all your friends and I suppose lads you played with and selectors and mentors over the years, and my own club mates and I suppose dads that trained me over the years. So that was the good thing about it. And I got to meet my parents as well, which, it was on a crowded pitch. You wouldn't see anybody probably for, a day or two until the whole thing died down. So that was the plus side of it. But listen, to lift it anywhere, it was an honour for me, and it was something special that you never forget.
Yeah, no, I remember it. Like, I got your autograph that day. Funny thing. I was waiting we were in the county club in Dunchalklin. So yous all arrived back, and I think I was 6 or 7 at the time. And I remember saying to my mom, I was like, I'm going to get his autograph. And my mom was sort of pulling me back. And I remember you were with Sean Boylan up the very top of the marquee, and I just squeezed through a few people and got your autograph that day. So I think,
I suppose that was the good thing, I suppose, then about, it's all kind of nearly enclosed now. You don't get to see the players now. That time, the county club was kind of the attraction for everybody. The team went back there. We mixed with the supporters, and there were great occasions and great for us as well, I suppose, to meet, I suppose, the fans as well, and so it was all kind of a little kind of a big family thing then, compared to now. You nearly can't get near any player now.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you think it's changed a lot?
I think it has, yeah. I suppose social media probably has a lot to play too. Players really, I suppose that time, we were just talking about it yesterday, like after most games we used to all go for a drink, and you nearly can't do that now. Everybody has a camera phone, and no matter what you do then it's up on social media. And I think it's, the players need to enjoy the game now, as well as, enjoy what happens after games, rather than, if you lose a game now, you're nearly going to training nearly straight away, So I think it's pushing probably a lot of players away from playing inter-county football as well, because the commitment is massive.
Massive. And anytime I talk to anyone who has stepped away, a lot of people say it takes over your whole life. So you nearly have to make a decision whether you want this type of career or you want to play for your county or family or different things. I know there's people that can balance it all, but it's a really big toll on a lot of lads and girls.
Yeah, it is tough. And I suppose for the younger guys coming in as well, they're at college, they're playing college football, club football, county football, and then trying to balance that with friends as well. And then if you have any relationship at all, wherever you're with, they have to row in behind as well, because it's more difficult for them, because you're not allowed to go out or well, that's the way it's gone now. Players don't go out anymore and look after their body probably a little bit better than what we used to, maybe, you know. But it's, as I said, they need to, I think, enjoy life and enjoy playing sport and what goes with it.
And just bringing it back to you again and your good memories, what sort of captain were you like? Were you a talker in the dressing room?
I suppose every captain is, but like when I was captain, we had huge leaders everywhere. Like there was Trevor Giles, John McDermott, Darren Fay, you know, Tommy Dowd. So you didn't really have to say a whole lot. Obviously, you know, when we're having meetings, you'd say a few words, but then like we had the best talker in the world, and Sean Boylan really as well. So, you know, he took probably a lot of pressure off anybody that was captain, you know, because I suppose every game before you go out, you just have the last few words and that was it. But I think once the game was on, everybody kind of stepped up to the plate and took on that mantle of, you know, doing something extra for the team. And that was kind of special about those from, I suppose, 96. Well, if you go back to 87, 88, kind of, they were the same as well, like the huge leaders all over the pitch. And that continued up to probably maybe 2001. And things have kind of been on the slide since then.
Yeah, unfortunately. Sean Boylan, what a man. Obviously, everything that he's done for Meath football. What was your relationship like with him?
We actually had a very good relationship. I think Sean kind of had a good relationship with most of the players anyway. He was always kind of somebody that you were able to turn to and talk to, really, you know, and about anything. And, you know, he's a wise man and, you know, you'd listen to what he's going to say, really, you know, and he'd steer you, you know, the best of his ability. And, you know, I was lucky, I suppose, that I grew up in that era where I was able to play under him. And you know, me, GA and GA in general have an awful lot to thank him for.
Big time, and he's still going. He's still, he was in with the under-20s there in Down, Conor Laverty and Marty Clark and Brendy McFay. They were all in there together. That was unbelievable to see him still at this age to still be there.
I think he was with UCD with them as well, I think, and that's how that kind of came about. But it keeps him young, you know. He's a great man, and you know, he loves the sport, and I think anything that he can do to help anybody, he will.
That's definitely the vibe you get from Sean. And he had some mad training techniques. Bettystown, Hill of Tara, I think you did some water polo and you did some mad things.
we played football with tennis balls and rugby balls and everything. Like, it was, so we were, this fella's mad half the time, you know, but it was, I suppose it was all, you know, when you're looking back then, it was all kind of like hand-eye coordination and, you know, judging the bounce of the ball and, you know, different things. We played rugby as well a couple of times, and like, it's all for support play. We played basketball, you know, so, you know, he had all these kind of different, I think he was way ahead of his time, really, you know. But, you know, it left it interesting, you know. We often trained in Gormerstown with, in the pool with buoyancy jackets on. Some of the lads couldn't swim. And, you know, you were in, like, there was a deep pool there, so it was about 12 foot, but if you stopped running, you were sinking to the bottom. So it was,
could you swim?
For lads to keep moving.
And could you swim?
Not great, but I was able to kind of keep myself up anyway.
So Graham Geraghty dishing the dirt on what it was like under Sean Boylan with Ash a little bit earlier this week. Now, episode 3, season 2 of the Football Pod is live. They've been talking mass red cards, Clifford's range, James O'Donoghue's handling masterclass, Sigerson debate and Cork struggles, and maybe the Dubs are coming up with Paddy Andrews as well, much more as well. Get it while it's hot exclusively on the OTB Sports app. We are giving away an amazing prize of a pair of match tickets, flights and 2 nights accommodation in Paris to be won for this weekend's Six Nations clash between France and Ireland, as well as a signed jersey. Daily winners get an Irish jersey, and you'll also, everybody who enters will be on the chance of winning that amazing overall prize. It's all in association with our friends at Aer Lingus. This morning's winner correctly identified this voice.
Props are a different animal. They're like wrestlers or boxers. They have a fighting weight.
Former Ireland coach Radio Sullivan. Jason O'Shea, good man yourself. You identified that, and so you are our daily winner today. And as I said, everybody goes into the draw later on this week for the overall prize. A reminder, OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. On tomorrow's show, we have Keith Wood, Daniel Harris, and much more as well. Right now, some more Joseph and Doe goodness in conversation with Joe Malloy. Enjoy. In Senegal this afternoon, today, of course, is a public holiday which has been declared on the back of their Africa Cup of Nations success in a penalty shootout against Egypt. Sadio Mane, very happy man. Mo Salah and Egypt not so happy. Second time in a row they've been pipped to the title. To discuss all, we are joined by a winner of this tournament, former Cameroon international, Joseph and Doe. Joe, great to have you on.
Hi, Joe.
So, let's start with the final. Up until the penalty shootout, this was not the greatest game in the world. I think it's fair to say, 0-0.
Yeah, but I think we have some great individuals, and then also you have it was very tactical, because when you see the way Egypt is playing, Egypt always try to control the game. You can see how much they waste the time. I think they are very good on that. Even when I used to play with them, even in clubs, when we played the African Champions League, they are so experienced how to control the tempo of the game. And I think Senegal have done well by trying always to up the tempo.
So you used the word technical there of Egypt's style. I think a lot of us would say there's nothing technical about wasting time, about getting the ball out of play far too often, about killing the game, in effect. It might be utterly professional, but for me, there's no technical greatness to that. Like I was reading Jonathan Wilson, for instance, who writes for The Guardian, and he described Egypt's play as anti-football in its truest sense. It's not that they defend, it's that they actively try to prevent any football being played. I think you're being maybe a bit generous to Egypt. Do they not have players to produce more quality football, no?
No, it's not. When I say I say they were technical individuals. So now when it comes to the game, you try to do the best you can, who are going to suit the majority of your players. And I think Egypt is playing with his strength, because most of the time, the way I see is that Senegal, with the player they have to play a certain way. And Egypt, the thing is, when you don't know Egypt, then it's a little bit strange. But we all know Egypt. Like that's not new for us. Do you understand? So we all know how they play, and we all know how they are good at what they are doing, because that's another thing. I cannot ask Egypt to change their mentality about the approach of the game when it gives them results. And I think what the Senegal done better than Cameroon is that they keep the tempo, because that's something Cameroon didn't do. And I think it's very important to understand it. You know, I love passing football. I love players expressing themselves. But I also understand that the football is not just the way I feel it. I have to respect the other people's vision of football. But when I go against them, you know, I'm not worried about what they're going to do. I put everything on what I'm going to do. And I think Egypt, and especially also because they played on Thursday, and they have the final on Sunday. And for them, I think they felt that, listen, it's going to be difficult to keep up the tempo. And they find something is it my kind of football? No, but I respect, because they are good on, at least they have a player who can play, who can do that.
Yeah. So am I right in saying that in your heart and in your soul, you don't look forward to watching Egypt, but in your head you can respect the approach and understand the approach? That's maybe how we might split the difference here.
The one thing I will say, that if you play against Egypt, you know what to expect. So it's going to be up to you to control the game. Because wasting time, I think, where do they learn wasting time? Is in European League. Because most of the time, when you see let's say when a team in Ireland is playing against a European team, the European team, they have so much experience. They know how to control the game. They know when to waste time. They know when to go down. So they're very specific. And when the referee, because that's another thing, during the game, I saw many stopped, many fouled that the referee, of course, he whistled the foul, but he didn't give the yellow card. And I think that also, that was a little bit, for me, that's why I felt that, okay, Egypt, they have to play their game, but the referee, because if he give you yellow once, you're going to be careful the second time. And I think many times, Egyptian player went away with that.
Mo Salah can't be happy playing that style of football.
I think Mo Salah is very happy to play that football because that's where he grew up. So he knows exactly the way they play. And at the moment, I would say one thing is that they are not as clinical as they used to be. Because in the past, if they have two chances, they're going to put one in. And the game is over. I guarantee you the game is over. And in other hand is that when they concede one goal, it's difficult for them to come back. So
do you think, Joseph, that this is the right approach, or do you not think there is more ability in this Egypt team to play a better style of football, to play a more attacking style of football, to score more goals? Do you not think Egypt could do that, especially with a player like Mo Salah in their team? Because this business of pragmatism to the degree that they take it to just seems like a very reductive style.
But Joe, who's the manager?
Carlos Queiroz.
So I think that's.
But I'm criticizing the manager. I think that I would associate it with this manager, and I think it's an argument against this manager. That's basically what I'm saying. I'm being critical of him.
That's what I'm saying. Is that for the manager, if the things are working out, like personally for me, I know how to beat Egypt, so I don't mind what they are doing. Because we play against them so many times and we understood, because the first thing about Egypt is that you have to dominate them physically. I think that's the first thing.
Right.
And if you cannot do that, it's going to be difficult for you to win. They have to feel that, listen, here today, even we are wasting time, we don't have a choice.
Yes.
So they always struggle on that aspect first. Because when you start dominating them physically, then you force them to play the technical football because they are very technical. I guarantee you on that.
Right.
But based on the manager, the way he asked them to play. Because the main thing is what? It was like, we're going to protect everything because we know that Salah going to have one chance. So if we can go through the 90 minutes without conceding, we may have a chance in penalties. But that's not down the player because I know for a fact that they are very technical players. Very technical players.
Right, interesting.
But all depends of the manager, the way, I'm going to say, the way they play, I think in 2000 was completely different the way they play now.
Right.
Of course, they were wasting time. But they have higher possession of the ball. And they were wasting time when they are 1-0 up. Because when they are 1-0 up, they know how to manage. But then now I think they have that, I will say, prudent approach to say, listen, it's better not to do too much and go to the final than try to play expansive football. But they have a player who can play that expansive football, and I think also that will help Salah. So at the moment, the system is not based on Salah. Maybe they think that it's based on Salah, but it's not based on Salah, because Salah's game is based on ball possession. It's not based on defending without the ball. that's not possible. He needs ball all the time.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I put it to you that I find it hard to believe that Salah enjoys this style of football. I'm sure he has great pride playing for Egypt and loves playing for Egypt, but it just seems like a great waste of one of the great footballers to play this style of football. It's such a waste. It's such a waste. Do you know what else is a waste? Let's stay on that point. Okay, we go with this very, very, very miserable brand of football, and then we get to penalties, and then we don't even let our brilliant footballer take a penalty. I mean, at this stage, I just give up. I'm walking out of the room.
You're on fire today. I need to speak to someone in Egypt. You say Joe is not happy.
I'm really not happy.
But I think what their plan was, that Salah going to take the fifth one, and we're going to win because they felt that the keeper gonna save maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah,
but I told you again.
And how did that work out for them? Because I must have missed Salah's penalty.
He walked out against Cameroon, and then Senegal say, we learned our lesson. Salah will not take the penalty. But that's what I'm saying, Joe, that maybe for the staff or the manager, he thought that he based everything around Salah.
Yeah.
But he didn't use, because with Salah on the pitch, you shouldn't go in penalties. That's not possible.
And once they do get to penalties, Joseph, do you think it was Salah's decision to be fifth, or do you think the manager said you should go fifth? I suspect it's really Salah wanting to go fifth and kick the winning penalty. No,
I don't know really, but because I think he worked out so well against Cameroon, So, and to be fair, the fifth penalty is always the hardest one.
But to interrupt you rudely, it often...
No, you didn't interrupt me.
Okay, to interrupt you politely, it so often doesn't get to the fifth penalty. Yeah. And for me, so look, Jamie Carragher, for instance, to give you a sense of what others in the footballing world had to say, Jamie Carragher said... after the shootout, he said, that is why your best penalty taker should never go fifth. Mo Salah not taking a penalty for Egypt in a shootout is madness. And it happened to Ronaldo years ago.
I agree, Joe.
Portugal,
Spain. I don't really agree. Why? Because they done it against Cameroon. They done it against Cameroon. And by the way, it's not Mo Salah their best penalty taker. I forgot the name of the first one. He always take the first penalty.
Okay.
I think that's the best one. In Egypt. So it worked out. But when it comes to penalty, you see, the way we are seeing as who's going to take the penalty. But it's not the way Egypt seeing. Egypt seeing as how many penalty our goalkeeper going to save. Because they are so confident of that goalkeeper that even when he's injured, he's playing.
Mm.
So they don't...
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.